smooth lyrics. So tune in 7 to 9:30 and don't be late. We about to set it straight. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Word. I'm ready. Let's go. Ain't no half stepping, that's the name of the show. Yeah. Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah. Hunters talk sprinkle with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you want to talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk. Running back, and he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk. Steppin', that's the name of the show. Yeah. Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah. Hunters talk sprinkle with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you want to talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk.
All right, y'all. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. It's live. We are in the building. Ready to have an outstanding show. We've been off the air for a few weeks. We're back, and we got a big one. A lot of stuff to get to. I usually tease it here. Sometimes I do, and I, you know what? I'm gonna tease a little bit. We got to talk about the sister Carlee down in Alabama. We're gonna have a conversation about the Black church, sparked off by someone else who isn't affiliated with the Black church. So I guess you got to take that with a grain of salt. We got Stephisodes, we got Green Talk, we got the flagship show of Legacy Internet Radio. We call this thing here. We do Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J. We are live from NewDen, Legacy Internet Radio right now.
Yeah.
It's about that time. It's about that time to get. Yeah.
Button your lip, open your ears, strap on your thinking cap. Socially conscious talk that's entertaining with a dash of humor and the top sports stories of the week. It's time for Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J.
Sellers has Jordan. Jordan with 2 seconds to go. Puts it up and scores at the buzzer. Michael Jordan has won it for Chicago. Manning lobs it. Burris alone. Touchdown, New York.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. He hits one deep to right center. That ball is out of here. The Yankees win the pennant.
Ain't No Half Stepping with Marcus J is live from NewDen, Legacy Internet Radio. Be down with us tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are live on YouTube Live. We are live on Facebook Live. And we got a huge show to give you. We got a couple of folks that's already checking us out. Our brother Julius is checking us up. He says, bless up, big homie. Peace to you, my brother. Thank you for rocking. Our brother Devontae Jones, outstanding artist and just a wonderful person, is checking us out, and he just dropped some fire emojis. You fire too, brother. Appreciate you. Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J. Live from NewDen, Legacy Internet Radio. Continue the salutations. Drop them in our live feeds. We don't do phones anymore. Perhaps one day we'll go back to it. We're not going to it as of now. So we will go around the room and get the usual suspects introduced. We haven't been together in this room in NewDen in 3 weeks since the 3rd of July. Today is the 24th. I usually don't date us that way, but I guess I just did. It's all good. But of course, he is my brother. He is sitting across the table from me. He is 1/3 of our trio. He's my brother, partner, and friend, and yours as well. He is our brother John, who I affectionately refer to as Johnny. Long time listeners get how corny I am.
Ooh, what's up? What's up, my brother?
What's up, man?
Marcus Magnificent, keeping us the realest.
I only say John Green because I know he's going to do that. And I've got used to that, brother. How you doing, man?
I'm well. How are you?
I am well. I'm outstanding. It's good to see you in your spot, man. It's good to see.
It's summertime. I'm feeling summer, right?
Drums, please.
And listen. And I'm somebody.
Yeah.
I'm somebody. I like the last of summer. Like most people like the beginning of summer. Nah, I like the last of summer. I like September summer. That's my favorite summer.
Yeah, which means I prefer fall.
Yeah.
Nah, I only like fall if I'm in New York City for like 2 days. When it's special.
Yeah. I'm a
When it's
fall
special.
person. I much prefer fall is my favorite
summer
season.
in
But I feel
September
you.
when the water is done got bath hot.
Yeah.
Hot enough for a bath in the water now? Yeah, man. Yeah,
That's your
And guess
money
what?
shot.
Guess what? For people that know me, y'all haven't really seen me go anywhere lately. And a lot of that is personal stuff. But in the summer,
It's coming.
in the fall, yeah.
My brother. Ain't No Half Steppin' with Marcus J. Live from NewDen, Legacy in that radio. Of course, sitting on my right side is my right hand, my sister, your sister, the outstanding, incomparable Steph. Yay. What's up, Steph?
You know,
Steph.
oh. you know
Duly
what?
noted, my brother. How you doing,
I
Steph?
love this because you'll say, "Oh, long time listeners know I'm corny," but you know what they also know? We not one of them podcasts with red pill crazy talk.
Yeah, no.
And because lately I've been seeing it, and I'm like, take away the microphone.
I'm not doing that. No, I'm not doing that. One thing that I will say about our show, and I love that about us, and I want you to respond to this stuff, is we are absolutely gonna have fun. Like we're gonna have fun. We're gonna have fun. And we are Gen Xers, we're middle-aged people, so our content is more skewed that way. I think we're friendly to elders, and there are some young folks. But one thing that we're not gonna do is silly shit.
No.
I'm not doing that.
I saw a podcast that had
That's what you want to turn
had
channel.
a little boy who, and I can only say little boy because I don't know a grown man that would show up this way, even if you're recording from your living room. But he had a do-rag, a open shirt, and a bare chest.
Yeah.
And proceeded to tell people that he was a philosopher.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, there are too many microphones in the world.
Yeah. That's the one thing that we have learned. Let me get some salutations and help me remind me to get back to this point, Steph. Some salutations. Uncle H is checking in. He said hello from an elderly.
We love the seniors.
We love the seniors.
Bring the knowledge, Uncle H. We love it.
Hey, look. We closer to that than we are to you. We on the back nine, y'all.
Yeah, I mean,
we are.
Look, I told you I've been in panic mode, so
yeah, you already know. So our brother Kev Crossley is checking us out. He's saying peace, greetings from Kev, HBCU Educational Tours and Programs. Yes, get that out there, brother.
And bruh, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, you taking out babies to
HBCUs,
HBCUs, man.
Working against our young people.
Yeah.
So what you do is relevant and necessary.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you. We thank you. Of course, the pretty boy is checking us out. We call him Damon. He is my brother and best friend in the world. He's saying peace. What's happening, brothers? Good evening, Steph B. Miss y'all. Glad to see y'all back in the building.
I
So,
like being the only girl because I get my own hello.
do you really?
From
Is
the
that
pretty
is
boy.
that's what you're doing? You gonna do that?
I
You
like
you gonna
it.
you gonna play the girl card?
I'm a girl.
It's pretty obvious though.
At some point, someone will argue with me about
Hon-
what kind of girl
honestly,
or woman or this, but
if they
just know I'm a girl.
if they miss it,
It is
what we gonna
it is.
do?
I
What
can't help it.
we can't do that with that. So ain't no hashtag Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy in that radio. Let's get to it, y'all. Let's get to it. We got a large agenda, a lot of stuff to get to, and the irony is, as much as I looked through it, I didn't set up a time frame on where I was gonna put stuff because we've been gone for a little while, and I wanted it to be organic. So this is where we're gonna start. I have seen a lot of people with opinions, and they're talking to us about Jamie Foxx. So I want to take a minute.
Oh, I didn't know we were
I,
talking about that. Okay.
I want to take a minute, and I didn't bring that to y'all because I just did. I didn't bring that to y'all. But there's a lot of talk about him, and we're not gonna take a lot of time on this. We're not. But there's a theme.
Clearly has an opinion.
Espouse your opinions in the mic, sir. But as a matter of fact,
on radio,
as a matter of fact, I will make my point, and then I will give it to you because there's a theme and there's a reason why I want to talk about Jamie Foxx. There's a theme here, and the theme is us. Like, I love us, but we get on my fucking nerves, yo. We always got something to say. We always got something negative to say. Like, we can't just let a story be what the story is. We can't hear that the man has challenges and just sit back and be like, all right, you know what? Let's chill. We got to fight with his daughter. We got to throw shade at her because she don't want to tell us what ain't our business anyway. You know what I'm saying? And then when he finally surfaces, apparently, allegedly, obviously, since he's had some sort of medical challenges, the picture that's floating around right now, there are those who feel is not representative of how he's supposed to, air quotes, because I'm talking to the dummies right now, supposed to look like the people that's doing the Shirt Open and Philosophy podcast.
Yeah.
Talking about them.
Red
Those
pill,
are the
red pill.
people that's coming on the air and they're talking shit about Jamie Foxx. But I'm coming on the air and I'm talking shit about them. So I just want to talk because there's a theme here. There's another story that we're going to do later on tonight where I'm coming for us, for how we treat each other, for how we take things, go viral. Everything ain't fucking funny, y'all. Really. Somebody being sick, it's not funny. So that's 2 fucks this early. So you already know. 3 now. Y'all already know. So sorry, Uncle H and Mom, but I just gotta say fuck when fuck fits.
Is Mom J the original on here right now?
I'm not sure.
Oh, Lord.
She usually checks in. I talked to her right before we went live, so perhaps. And I'm still,
Sorry,
perhaps.
Mrs. J.
But I had conversation with the elders. It was like, look, man, I gotta do my authentic thing on radio. You know what I'm saying? I gotta be me.
And I'm sorry,
ma'am.
Right,
Ma'am. So John, jump in here, man. We're not gonna spend a lot of time on this, I promise. Just we're gonna go around. If something comes up where we gotta boomerang it back, then cool. But just a quick statement, and Steph will say what she's gonna say. We'll move on.
Listen, everybody who knows me know I love to travel, but I'm gonna spend as little time as possible on flat Earth and deal with you morons. They did not clone Jamie. Nobody stuck Jamie with something that made him sick. Jamie, like most black men, suffer from high blood pressure. Right?
I take a pill every day.
And part of that has to do with his genetics. And that's what happens when you got, 200 years of chattel slavery. Well, a cool 100 years of chattel slavery plus Jim Crow and all that stuff. You get people that are just born whose body doesn't process food. We're not eating the food that we're supposed to eat anyway. And he was doing a movie, working hard, had just finished the movie, didn't take a break, went back to do another movie, and he got sick. He had a mild stroke. Well, no, he had a severe stroke and complications behind the stroke. And anybody who knows anyone who had a stroke would understand why somebody who is Jamie Foxx, right, who is Jamie Foxx, doesn't need for the public to see him with half of his face paralyzed, not able to walk, not able to move his arm, can barely make a sentence. He doesn't want to be seen like that. He wants to be seen, and he did not let himself be seen until he could talk well and present himself well. But he's been out of the hospital a long time and having treatment, rehab. So all of y'all stop it. And he's not cloned, right? Cloners, flat earthers, all of y'all, go ahead and get with the Trump supporters because y'all all the same kind of people. And that's it.
Steph, what you got on this? Just, whatever
Not
your quick
much,
comment
not
is.
much.
Yeah.
I'll say this, there are moments where people need to understand that even a celebrity is a human. And if this were your own parent, you wouldn't want them to be the source of rumor and fodder just for the sake of feeling like you're important and you have an opinion. The things that I've seen, this is not him on the video, and look at how he looks. First of all, if this man went through, as he said, hell and back, the way he said, of course he would look like he went through something. Of course he's not going to look like his normal, super healthy self. But it's victimization of a person who's unwell to put them in a position of where they feel they even need to defend or explain anything. And honestly, I miss the old day of celebrity when people like Luther died without you knowing their business. And when the old Hollywood stars had contracts that bound them to certain morality and decorum in public, and it's people want to know too much. The same behaviors they have in their local community is what they apply to everything else, and everything is not a joke. And at the end of the day, I'm happy to see this man back doing what he loves to do. It's unfortunate that the things that are being said about him are coming from us, from his own people, and this is to me, it's a kick somebody when they're down moment. It's embarrassing to see. And it's really sad that conspiracy theory is more important than respecting someone's health and wishing them well and saying, glad to see you back and keep it moving. And I will say this, Karma is, she's a bitch who never forgets where to go find a home.
Never.
So
Never.
Make sure your doors are locked because she'll visit you too.
Yeah. It's funny, and I'm going to shift this. I'm not going to wax poetic any further. I said that we would do real quick, and we will. But, I will say that as you get older and you have more discernment and you have more wisdom, there's certain areas that you just don't go into. You know what I'm saying? Like, and James is checking us out. He said, well said and addressed, family. He's appreciating where we're going. And there's another story later on, James. Keep listening, where we'll talk more about how we as Black people, because I'm talking to us, there are other cultures that may listen to our show, and we receive them, we welcome them, but this is a FUBU ass show.
Right.
It just is. And so
and everybody is welcome to listen.
Yeah.
And some people may not welcome what we have to say.
Hey,
but
turn it off. Turn it off. Turn it off. I used to get mad, First Lady Lissa P and the Inspiration, Jay Grizzy, would get mad at me because I would tell people on the air, turn it off, man.
You're better off.
Turn it off. If you don't like what we saying, turn it off. Go on and listen to the dude with the shirt open that's a philosopher who's talking shit about people as opposed to trying to lift them up. So there's that part. Leave that aside. I'm going to move us into the green talk. John, I need you to go ahead and grab the con because you usually bring it. I know tonight will be no different. And so I need you to tell us about the bricks crumbling. I know what bricks is, but it's not Newark, New Jersey. You got the con, bro. What's up?
Yeah. No, there was a lot of talk, especially early on this year when 25 or more countries filled out application to join BRICS, because the whole idea was they were going to create a cryptocurrency, a blockchain to rival the US dollar. So everybody was gloom and doom, like the same people are talking about Jamie cloning and all that shit. they really didn't understand finance and how things work. And
Pause.
Mhm.
Michelle is saying, "Hey, Fab 3."
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. John, I'm gonna stop you for a second because I want you to make something clear before you continue. A question that I asked you, and I want you to open with
Oh,
bricks.
okay.
What the hell is that?
So that is a conglomerate. It's an acronym, and it stands for let me get this right. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Right? These countries with fucked up history, by the way, got together and decided they wanted to rival the U.S. dollar and not trade any of their goods for the U.S. dollar. Right now, if you want to buy anything around the world, you got to buy it with with a U.S. dollar, and then convert it to your thing. So those countries got together and said, no, we're not going to buy stuff with the U.S. dollar, and no one can buy anything from us with the U.S. dollar, and that's that. Well, here goes the problem. When you do that, the U.S. puts sanctions on your ass, right? They put sanctions on your ass. So y'all going to be selling each other shit. But, okay, here's the best example I can give you. Those countries combined make up about 40% of the population on the planet, right? But if you take their whole the money from GDP, thank you. Right? If you take that and you add it up, it's only 18.5% of the world's economy. So they, again, 40% of the population, 18.5% of the world's money. The US by itself. Anyway, listen. My point is, everybody was talking gloom and doom. If you remember back on the back when we was talking about, I told you that it wasn't gonna happen. US dollar's not going nowhere. Before the US dollar goes anywhere, they'll blow this whole thing up. So you guys got a choice, like get with the program or, face annihilation. That's just how it is. Putin is fighting for his presidency because his $400 billion can disappear in the blink of an eye. China don't have any people because they put a limit on per family how many children you could have, and now the vast majority of their population is older than me, and they're not doing well. Brazil is Brazil. I don't even want to go there. South Africa, yeah, we already know. So India, right? People earn a living by crawling through a dumpster to take computer parts. Right? So, I mean, always know your audience. Always be able to see past the fodder. And again, I tell you guys, if you see it on the news or read it on the internet, it's meant to distract you. Because when the real shit is going down, you will never see it. Never. Anything on the news, anything on the internet that's blasted for every people to see, 999 out of 1,000 times is bullshit, because real shit don't get on the news. Two names I want y'all to remember, and I'll end this green talk unless we got some people calling in or you guys want to jump in. Blackwater and Vanguard. I'm going to say it again. Blackwater and Vanguard. Now, if you guys have never heard that before and you don't know what those two words mean and what they represent, just stop. Don't ever look at anything on the financial thing. Don't ever talk about you going to day trade, and don't ever talk about you going to make $1 million in crypto. And find out who Blackwater and Vanguard is before you start thinking about anything financial. Because if you don't know, you don't know, and you'll never know. So, keep working hard at your job and try to save some money, get some life insurance.
Ain't no half stepping. Marcus J live from NewDen, Legacy Internet Radio. You know, I will say this before I move us to Stephisodes. You know, world news and money is important, very important. My only problem is that most of us don't care or pay attention to it. And it's important. It's important for the reasons that you laid out because these things affect the whole. Now, I'm also on record. I don't want to seem like a hypocrite here. I'm also on record as saying, create the world you want to live in. Shout out to Kate Up. Create the world you want to live in and live your life in a way that the things that you talked about, certainly on a national scale, you were speaking internationally, don't affect you. But that's to a point. You start talking about money, you start talking about relationships, these types of things on an international level can begin to affect us. So shout out to you, John, for always keeping us in the mindset of those types of things, because my mind doesn't work in a way where I'm thinking about those things, even though they're important. And you always make sure in our professional conversations as well as in our personal ones. So you a leader, bro. I fucks with you.
I try, bro. I appreciate that.
My man.
And just because you made that statement, I'm gonna finish up. Guys, basically Blackwater and Vanguard own the world.
Blackwater.
Blackwater and Vanguard own the world. And I don't mean that figuratively speaking. They are the boogeyman. They own everything. They are the majority holders of everything, including each other. Right? There's not a company that's traded. There's not a company that's traded publicly that does significant profit that they are not majority holders in. Right? Just two companies. And they're majority holders in each other.
Yeah.
So if you can't understand how that works, if you can't do the research and look up all these and understand how that works, how money is a construct, is an idea of how to trade goods and services without bartering, and that the whole idea of blockchain and crypto was to bring back bartering and to monetize bartering and make dollars out of services as opposed to fiat, which is promissory to pay. If you guys don't understand that, if you don't want to understand it, fall back. Like Marcus said, live the life, create the life you want to live, and go ahead and live it, and more power to you. That's what I'm doing, right? But don't flood the internet. I get tired of seeing all these people talking out the side of their neck and don't know what they're talking about. Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit do they know what they're talking about. So just fall back.
Ain't no half step and Marcus J live from NewDen, Legacy Internet Radio. Before we move to Stephisodes, I want to share a brief story. On Saturday, I had an opportunity to spend some time with the person that we're about to acknowledge, and her sister, and my sister Littrell had our sister Littrell had a milestone birthday over the weekend. I won't call out what the number is, 50, but
You are so wrong.
I am. I don't care.
But you know what?
I don't care.
It's a
First,
good looking
first,
50.
first Gladys Knight.
Yeah.
Now, man,
But you was funny.
you have no
none,
filter.
zero.
But
You gotta
lucky-
care to have
are
a
you
filter.
lucky
are you
people
not gonna
love you,
address
man.
that her 50
I
looks
am
good?
absolutely lucky.
You lucky people love you.
She has been my sister since I was 19 years old. 19.
And you right behind on that 50,
19, and I am
don't
going to
play.
be 50 years old on my next birthday. And people on this planet who
Turn
hide,
up,
who
Drinks
hide,
and Jays.
who hide from their age, I look at them like they have a mole in the middle of their forehead. Why the hell are you running from your age? You realize the blessing it is to get to whatever level you got.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I played Miss Pac-Man over the weekend, and I know how hard it is to level up. You know
That's
what I'm
right.
saying? So I love you, Littrell. Thank you for being my sister. And while we're in this moment, her sister said good morning. So we have to greet her.
And happy birthday, bye.
And I got an opportunity to hug her this weekend. Both of them.
I'm not gonna talk
Both
to
of them.
Marcus about this because he always calls me
Right in the moment.
after
I
or
te-
during the moment.
I
He
text.
don't-
I
The
text.
invite is not extended.
He don't even call me at all.
I text.
He'll send me he always will send me a really nice text, and that's when I know he's in his happy space, and I love it.
That's because I love her, and so we're gonna say it, y'all. Y'all ready to say it? We're gonna look at the camera and say it together. Good morning, Sue. Yeah, I put her over every time on this damn show. Every time.
She deserves it.
Every time. Every time. If I got a mic, I'm gonna call your name. Ain't no how Steph Marcus J Live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio Stephisodes. This gonna be a good one, and I'm looking forward to this one. And so let's get it. What you got?
So, I really try to use Stephisodes as a moment to state a hypothesis, create a challenge, and force people to think. I think Green Talk is very good at that, forcing you to think of things. I have an opinion, but I really want people to process. So some time ago, we transitioned to the terminology of people of color, POC. And that was meant to discuss the issues that apparently impact Black and brown people, and to group us together in solidarity with our struggles. And recently, and even prior to recently, I've been kind of cataloging all of the times that POCs has failed Black people. And the terminology bothers me because it's dismissive of a struggle that is very unique to the Black American experience, chattel slavery, and all of the repercussions and reverberations through the years of chattel slavery, whether it be redlining, whether it be Jim Crow, whether it be mass incarceration. All of these things are very, very specific to Black people.
Let me get a comment in from social media. First, our sister Laurel is checking us out. She says, "Hey, Marcus and friends."
Hello.
Hey, girl. Hey. I love Laurel. That's my sister right there. And Sue says, "I tell him to bring y'all." And in transparency, she does. She has.
So I know you wouldn't exclude us.
She has, and that's on
This
me.
dude.
I will own it.
This
I'm a terrible
He
person.
keeping us from a good time.
I'm a terrible person. And
But
Selfish.
I noticed. I appreciate that he read that comment and didn't try to hide from it.
no, because it's there. Y'all would have seen it anyway.
We'll see it later and text you. Oh, for real?
Yeah. But in all seriousness and transparency, she has told me that. I've been traveling last week. I just got back in town. I was like, I'm going to see my sister. So the next time they do something in a time frame where I can get there, I'm going to tell y'all ahead of time. And if we can all get there, it'd be great. Or
we could just
create something. There you go. You hear that, Sue? You listening?
Batman always needs Robin.
Yeah, man. and we do what we like to do when we're there.
And I would like to do that too.
Yeah. So continue where you at, Steph.
Party and bullshit.
We party and bullshit.
Yes.
There you go. There you
Hello.
go. There you go. Yeah. There you go.
So I don't struggle with stating very emphatically. If you were to look at on Twitter, I specifically only use Twitter for purposes of usually political discussion, feminism, womanism, attacks on misogyny, things like that. Otherwise, I don't really have any use for it. But I like I liked the format in the platform, and I notice on the platform often when someone brings up an anti-Black stance, there are people of color that race in to support that anti-Black stance. I noticed the other day when DeSantis was standing there talking about what we're going to talk about later, which was how, Black folk got skill from slavery, and that was the benefit and all. There was a Chinese or Asian woman behind him vigorously nodding her head. And it made me think about Stephisodes. And so I just want to run through a few stats. I'm going to state my point after those stats and then cast it out to the team here and to the listeners. So first of all, in 1917, Congress passed the Immigration Act of 1970, which effectively banned Asians, Mexicans, and Mediterranean people, so brown people, right? From entering the U.S. And it also banned anyone who was poor, a political radical, or had mental or physical disabilities, I believe. So that was 1917. In 1924 or 5, they passed an act called it was the Immigration Act of 1924. They passed that act, and it was specifically the Asian Exclusion Act. So 2 acts between 17 and 24 to specifically extend the the feeling of anti-blackness to brown people who might want to come here. And the intention of both of those laws was to maintain the homogenous nature of power in the United States. It was to make sure this would be an overwhelmingly white nation. Now, when I say that, what people should understand is overwhelmingly white didn't become a problem of visual perception until recently. What overwhelmingly white desire meant was overwhelmingly white power. They wouldn't have cared if it was like 40% of the people were white, and they maintained the power. And overwhelmingly white in power represented in wealth. So those 2 things happened 1917, 1924. In 1964, we all know that the Voting Rights Act, Civil Rights Act were passed. And then immediately after that, in 1965, as a result of the Black fight for civil rights, and I want to emphasize that, as a result of Black people tolerating, bearing, facing dogs, hoses, lynching, rape as terrorism, domestic terrorism, homes being burned down, Black Wall Street, and I could name Rosewood. As a result of Black people facing those terrors, we won access to civil rights. Now, I hate to even use that term because my civil rights are not a gift. They are not a gift. White people chose to make it a gift, but they are not a gift. So once Black people went through everything they did to earn rights, and let's be clear, Martin Luther King did many speeches where he made it clear that he was fighting for the civil rights of all. He did not say the civil rights of Black people. In many instances, he spoke about the Mexican. He spoke about the Asian and their treatment. He spoke about the Native. And immediately after the Civil Rights Act, the Voting Rights Act of 64 was passed, the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965 was passed. It was months later. And it abolished race-based immigration quota systems, and it replaced it with a system that prioritized refugees, people who were well-educated, people with special skills, and so on, and specifically began to not marginalize European people, but put a greater focus on all of the Asian. And mind you, when we talk about Asia, Asia is a very large continent. And often we talk about Asia and people picture people who appear Asian as you perceive it, Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese. We're talking also Indian people. They were then afforded so many rights. So fast forward, many of us, myself, Marcus, light-skinned tan John, can trace our legacies, if we could, 5 generations back. Black people have been here longer than most. And if you go to what the wealth gap is now, these are the numbers. $187,300. This is the last census. $187,300,000 for white households. $206,400 for Asian households. $31,700 for Hispanic households. $14,100 for Black households. That is the representation of the wealth gap. So the people that we that benefited from our terrorism and the ongoing and systemic terrorism against Black people are now out earning us by hundreds of thousands of dollars. As a matter of fact, they are out earning white people here. Now, 187,000 and 206,000, that's not much difference. So we'll go ahead and say Asian people who benefited from the civil rights struggle of Black Americans, from the lynching, from the chattel slavery, from the things that we had to endure. Here they are now, and their legacy, their progeny, their children, their grandchildren are sitting on 4 to 5 times the wealth that any Black child is sitting on. In a country that Black children can go back and say, my great, great, great grandparents and so on got you here. Now let's take it another step. In America, the average individual with a bachelor's degree is coming from a household with a median wealth of $196,000. It's $186,000, which means the average person with a bachelor's degree is going to be Asian or white. The average household with a $40,000 income is going to have a high school diploma. That means that overwhelmingly, the people who do not have education or do not have a high school diploma are going to be Black or Hispanic. So now that we have the numbers, let's think about the way that SCOTUS has applied this new law and where that lawsuit came from. An Asian American filed a lawsuit against Harvard saying that Black people were being given prioritization. Now, remember, I just told you that the average person holding a bachelor's degree in the United States of America comes from a household that is within the wealth gap or within the median income of what white or Asian households hold. And an Asian American decided to target Black people who come from households with an average income below that of which you would even have a high school diploma. We were the target for the people who we legitimately risked our lives for so they could have equality, so that they could have equity, and they are experiencing it at a higher level than the white people who didn't want them to have it. And white people are not angry with them, but they have all come together to focus on us, which immediately for me makes a statement that the argument against affirmative action is about Blackness and nothing else. It has nothing, because you are perfectly fine as a white person if Asian households make more money than you. You're perfectly fine with your Asian doctor. You're perfectly fine with your Asian engineer. You're perfectly fine with your Asian architect. It is Blackness that inspires the greatest level of fear in you, because our numbers are nowhere near yours. It is not challenging you. And somehow yet, even the Asians have made us a target. Now, help me understand, based on what I just said, why I should have a conversation that centers people of color when I mean Black. Help me understand that. That's where I stand on. So my basic statement is, people of color is a farce. It is an opportunity to distract from having an in-depth and ongoing conversation about the issues that impact Blackness, and that Asians and Indians are participating in the ongoing terrorism of Black people. And I'm not, listen, if you listen to this show and you need me to say not all every time, you should turn it off, because I don't have time for the qualifier. You should be smart enough to know that no statement is overwhelmingly about all people. If I say penis people can be crazy, I'm sitting with 2 penis people right now. You know I don't mean all. So I'm not going to qualify that. But what I will state emphatically is anger over race is specifically about Black people, as it was intended to be from the very beginning, which is why the construct of separating people by Black and white existed, not brown and white, not yellow and white, not red and white. So stop that bullshit. It was Black and white. It continues to be. And I will say that Asian and Indian American people participate happily in it, and even a contingency of Hispanics. I'm talking to you Cubans down in Florida. I'm talking to some of you Mexicans in Texas who have come here and benefited from what we have done in this country and now want to exclude us or make us the foil so you don't have to be the target. Tell me why I need to be concerned about people of color and not Blackness. It's at the table.
May I? So I'll go first, John.
I'll wait.
I won't take long. But you said a mouthful and you nailed it. Uncle H says it's the blackness. Thanks, Steph. And he's right. You know, we are the culture that was the face of the struggle against white supremacy because they brought us here to do their work and they still fucking with us. They still fucking with us. And so when you see the dominant in any situation, you see the dominant fucking with the next level. If you a level below that, you're going to get with the dominant. If you watch schoolyard fights with kids, you're going to see the punk kid try to get with the bully so that they don't get bullied. It's basic. It's real basic. Now, that's a very basic and primitive analogy to make, but it's some real shit, you know? And I think we should be mindful of what it is we're dealing with. I think we are. I think we're mindful of it. But I think when we use the term people of color, it is a clear shot at black folks because they're lumping our struggle in with everybody else. You talked about the Supreme Court. When you look at somebody like Clarence Thomas, who made it to the Supreme Court, all of the steps that he made to get there because of affirmative action. He got to school because of it. Affirmative action. And he is one of the 6 that shoots it down. And the irony of him being a person that succeeded Thurgood Marshall, that irony will never be lost upon me, you know. And you know, it's so much with this one, man. I don't like the term people of color. I think that black people should be acknowledged solely based on the fact that we are here in this country as a culture and we deserve to be singularly referenced and not lumped in with other cultures. Because white people, and I used to say this on the show all the time, white people are the default. They are to compute out the box before you start fucking with it. You know what I'm saying? Everything.
By their intention.
Obviously by their intention. You know, when they sat around to write the Constitution, there wasn't nobody there but white men. It wasn't no white women. It wasn't no black men. It wasn't no Asian people. They wrote that for them. They weren't thinking about nobody else. And miss me with that. They were thinking about the future of the country. Man, fuck that. They was not thinking about the future of the country. They was trying to make sure that England didn't come steal their shit. They weren't thinking about nobody else but them. And that's the book that we hold in such high regard and we have no interest in messing with. You know what I'm saying? Like we can't mess with the Constitution. It's the Bible of the country. Never mind the Bible of the country was written over 200 years ago. Like 200 years ago. Like for real? You mean to tell me that it's okay to walk around with guns and AKs and all of that because it said in the Constitution you could, when the reference they was referring to was muskets because they ain't had no police. They didn't have no force. They didn't have no protection. All they had was themselves. That's what the Constitution is. That's what the Second Amendment is about. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, back to the point of the matter, the heart of the matter. I'll give it to you, John, because I'm about to just ramble all over the place on this one because this is a topic that riles me up. You know what I'm saying? I think that every single culture deserves the dignity to be referred to specifically as their culture. And people of color is white folks saying all y'all motherfuckers is the same. All y'all motherfuckers is the same. Black people, y'all the same as the Latinos. Y'all the same as the Indians. Y'all the same as the Asians. Y'all the same as the South Pacific. If you ain't white and you got color, you are people of color. Never mind the vastly different cultures. Never mind the vastly different perspectives. Never mind the vastly different ways that we have arrived in this North American wilderness. Y'all know who said that. maybe you don't. That's an inside joke for who know. If you know, you know. Because this is some real stuff. People of color, like, and I want to give a shout out to the liberal white folk that eyes be popping open when we show them shit, because they don't realize. Now, I'm not saying this to make it seem like I'm with all black folks. All skin folk ain't your kinfolk. Like Steph said, I ain't doing qualifiers. I guess I just did one. But people of color, every time I hear it, I just get enraged, because it is a way to minimize your individual situation, your individual culture, and your individuality that makes you different in our culture. You're not the computer out the box.
And I know John's about to jump in. I want to address.
I'm done, so you can send it to him when you're done.
Something that
unless you
that
want me to
Marcus said
respond.
that I think is important in conjunction with the numbers. So when you group people of color together, when you take black people and dump them into the bucket of Indian Americans and Asian Americans, what you then also do, or what they then also do, is make it okay to dismiss the specifics of the numbers. It then groups us in with individuals that are making 5, 10, 15 times what we're making and experiencing that much more of a wealth increase than we are. So now we're not addressing the truth. So now you say people of color, and you lump a black household with a median income of $14,000 in with an Asian household with a median income of $206,000. We are not the same.
No.
And I'm not saying that all black people are sitting there, but when you say median, that means the average.
Yeah.
And when you say the average, that is stark.
Yeah.
And that is significant. So I don't think it's fair, because then it becomes too easy to dismiss the huge disparity and act like it doesn't exist, because now you're lumping it in, and now you just take Asians, Black Americans, Indian Americans, add the numbers together and say, oh, well, the average is 182,000.
Yeah.
No, we need this number to be sitting aside. We need it to be known that people who have been here long enough to bring you rice, to bring you ironworks,
to teach you how to till your land,
to breastfeed your babies.
And you're going to lump us in with everybody else.
And you're going to say that you don't want to talk about the why it's 14,000 over here and 206 over here and Nimrata, and I'm talking about Nimrata.
You know why they don't want to talk?
Haley.
You know why they don't want to talk about it?
2 generations making more than us.
You know why they don't want to talk about it? They don't want to talk about it because then you got to have the real conversation.
Right.
You have to have the real conversation when you bring this up.
Yes.
Because white supremacy in its purest form is the usage of the term people of color. Because that's them telling you it's us and then it's the rest of y'all. It's it's us and then it's all
and y'all.
It's us and y'all.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? John, jump in here, bro. What you got?
Quite a few times on the show, you've heard me speak about something similar. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna start it with this, and because you guys unpacked a lot. I'm gonna try to touch it all. I feel more strongly about the term black than people of color, because I think it does us much more disservice than that. Because it does the same thing. It says we're all the same because of our complexion, and we are so diverse. We are so different, right? But we're forced to huddle together for warmth, even when we don't like each other, right? That's the only way we're going to make it through, because that's how bad it is. Now, dealing with those numbers, what I will say about those numbers, they're a bit askew, because the issue is not what the wealth is, or what black people are earning. The problem is we have no industry, right? So we spend more than everybody. So we don't maintain the money. Whereas the other communities spend within their community. This is how the wealth of the family gets to be higher.
Yes.
Black people are earning. Trust it. But the problem is we spending, right? We are, again, 1/3 of this nation's economy. And at best, 18% of the population. Right? At best. People say it's 12, but I push in a lot of people who don't answer census and all that kind of stuff. When they do the real numbers, what they do is they go by children in school. And they figure for every child in school, there's two other black people around somewhere. And they figure out the numbers, and we're about 18%. But 33%, 33.3% of every dollar that's spent in this country is spent by black folks. Right? So we earn. We just don't have anything to buy. We buy everybody else's shit. And that's our biggest problem. Now, when they did the Immigration Act in 1917, what that was about, like you said, that was maintaining power. Because what they know, they had already established the black as the enemy, as the boogeyman, as the poster child for poverty, crime, and everything else, right? They didn't want to bring other people in who would have to do what black people did because they couldn't shut them out. They couldn't Jim Crow them because then it would be too obvious. You see what I mean? They couldn't do to the Asians coming in or to the whoever coming in. And a lot of you people, like, let me put y'all up on something. The European immigration that happened, y'all missed out on a lot of the gypsies. And the gypsies who came and went to Mexico and went to the Caribbean and stuff like that,
okay.
those is black folks, right? Y'all got to understand something. It's a thing called tarny, right? I would be considered tarny, right? People who know me on the, but they consider me tardy. That means I'm black, but I ain't black, right? So many of these people came over during these immigration. They had to do something about it, right? They had to maintain, because then you get people voting, right? You get people voting, you get things happening, you get all this kind of stuff, and they didn't want to do it, so that's what they did. Now, we're dealing with this people of color again. We still got to deal with black, because I ain't never met a black person, just like I ain't never met a white person. Right? I just know people. And the whole idea of white supremacy, again, it is to get us focused on complexions when it's irrelevant. Nobody gives a damn about complexion. It's about maintaining power, and it's about playing your part. The thing about the complexion is people who are brown, darker brown, or black or whatever are easily identifiable. Right? So it doesn't take a lot. I don't have to ask for your papers. I don't have to find out who you are, because I don't really care who you are, right? If your complexion is what your complexion is, then you are the enemy. You ought to be put down, right? And dealt with accordingly. And that was the problem with the abolishment of slavery, honestly, because there was a significant amount of free landowning black people in this country during the time of slavery. And then after the abolishment of slavery, they put everyone together. So it didn't matter what kind of money, education, or anything you had, you was just an N-word now. And let me help folks out, because y'all don't know this. Affirmative action does not do anything for an unworthy candidate. Right? What it says is these institutions were practicing racism by excluding blacks and others. They weren't even considering these people for membership or in schools, what they call it, admissions, right? So it says, listen, you got to use at least 5% of your admissions to consider qualified people that are black, right? It wasn't, he took a spot. No, you was never getting into Harvard, stupid. It was never going to happen. But guess what? It was never going to happen for a black person who was qualified, because they did not even consider that person. So affirmative action made them consider. And again, let's go back 5%, but we 12% of the population, we still getting screwed because we're not even getting considered, right? And it wasn't about the level of education because you probably could have got a better education at some HBCUs. It was the stigma attached to it. It was the prestige, right? So we didn't have legacy in these institutions, right? So a lot of unqualified white people were getting in. A gentleman C. That's what George Bush Jr. got. George W. got. A gentleman C. Oh, forget about Trump. The dumbest motherfucker.
I mean, but still, it's relevant.
Yeah, but yeah, no, but I know. I just when I hear that, just
I know.
I wasn't.
I
I wasn't.
I
wasn't. But I'm just saying, all of these things. Again, y'all gotta see it for what it is. This is again. We're in a capitalist society, so everything is marketing. You know this, Steph. Everything is marketing. So in the marketplace, black is bad, white is good. Black and white, right? You can't get further apart than that, right? So white is the champion, black is the whatever is the
foil.
The foil. Thank you. I needed that, right? And because of that, everything is going to be skewed that way. But stop really thinking about. Listen, I can speak for about 2 weeks straight and talk about the genetics of black people, right? And how we could deem ourselves superior because of this, that, and the other, and the darker and the recessive and the dominant and so on and so forth, and our physicality and all this. I could do this in the brain processing of a 1-year-old black child is 5 times that of any other child. I could do that all day, but it's not about that, right? Because although these are good things, right, it also pushes white supremacy. Because why do you feel that you have to make the statement? Why do you feel like you have to announce it? You feel that way because you've been traumatized. You are a victim of psychological warfare played on you, and all you think about is a level of pigment or melanin in your skin, which none of that is relevant. No. I
don't want it to eat up everything. I will say I have some disagreement there, only in the sense that there's relevance because it may not be what it's based off, but it's how it's promulgated, it's how it's pushed, it's how it's continued, and it's not about how the people think about it. It's the easy way for supremacy to keep pushing it.
Well, yeah, that's the mark. But that's what I mean when I say mark. I agree with that. And if I wasn't clear, that's what I meant by marketing. This is marketing. It's not a real thing, right? The powers that be are not concerned about that. They're concerned about keeping the status quo.
Yeah. And the final thing I'll say is earnings are relevant also. And I have to say that only as a black woman, because at the end of the day, black women with more education and everything else are still being out earned by white and black men in the workplace. And those earnings are, especially with black women being the predominant household income earners, we're the one part of culture, black women, where the woman is the financial head of household consistently. And yet we make less when a black man is working and we're working, when a white man is working and we're working, when the only people that make less than us are Hispanic women. And that is typically just based on where we are in the educational level. So earnings matter as well, particularly as a black woman. I can't ignore that. But thank you guys for entertaining my wild ranting.
You never got to thank us for that. You know, you are our sister. Let me just say this. I'm about to put you over and give you flowers. You never have to do that disclaimer because you're with people who love you, who love black women, who love our people, who love our culture, who think black, live black, breathe black. You know, people in our country, we talk about all of the cultures here. And when I look at our white brothers and sisters and I see how they celebrate the flag and how many of them get offended when some of us say, fuck your flag. it's real because we got reason to say fuck your flag. Whereas perhaps maybe you don't. And so we have mixed feelings when we see the Stars and Stripes. We live here. You don't like it here? Just leave. Shut the fuck up. Really, shut up. Because you know there's no reality in you saying that. There's no reality in me being mad at America and just picking up my shit and moving to wherever. There's no reality in that. There's boastfulness in you saying it to me, but ain't no reality in that. Where I'm gonna go for real. Because as bad as it is here, and there are reasons to think that it's bad. And the next two stories that we're gonna do is gonna show you how fucked up it is for those of us who happen to be people of color, Black people, right? But the reality is, when you look around the world, it's kind of fucked up everywhere. So where you gonna go? Where you gonna go? You gonna go to Africa? I know some folks who did it. Love them, appreciate them, not trying to do it. My spiritual home is in Jamaica, not trying to do it. But I live here. My father was born here. His father was born here. His father was born here. That's what I know. And I'm guessing his father was born here. Translation, it's my shit. It's my shit.
And if you don't like that I'm complaining about it and voicing my rights, you leave.
It's in the Constitution that says that I get to do that.
That's right.
The same Constitution that you throw in my face all the time. It's in the Constitution that says if you don't like something, speak your piece. It's on the first page. It's on the first page.
At the top.
At the top.
Read for.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Freedom of speech means freedom of death.
Hey,
we
man.
Gotta fight the power that be.
Hey, man. Shout out to Chuck and Flav. you know what I'm saying? So I appreciate when we find ourselves in this conversation, because most folks who are watching and listening and who know me know that I have spent most of the last couple of years in more peaceful fare. And I am a Gemini, and I am someone who still is the person who will come on here and wax poetic with regards to social consciousness and how we find ourselves in our country. And I got an opinion about all of that stuff. I'm just not as aggressive and verbal about it, but yeah, tables can be flipped at will, especially when we find ourselves in conversations with people. And I know you said, Steph, that we're not going to do the disclaimer, and I received that. But for me, it's important that I make it plain that all skin folk ain't your kinfolk.
True now.
You know what I'm saying? So when we talking about white supremacy and white folk, if you white and you and your feelings about it, then you must be one of them people. Because if you are white and you know that's not you, then it's not you.
Yeah, hit dogs holler.
It's really for me, just me. John and Steph can speak for themselves. But for me, it's about the system of white supremacy. It's always been about the system of white supremacy. Because I met some good white people, just like I know some fucked up Black people. It ain't about you. As we move into our next topic, it's a perfect segue for it. And yeah, I'm really, really, really going to wax poetic and get my feelings about this one, because this is one where it's almost like they trolling us now, y'all. They trolling us when we talk about how slavery had personal benefits for Black people. This the shit they want to talk about in Florida. Now, because the governor of Florida is running for president, we got to deal with this. Yeah. We got to deal with the fact that in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis, who signed the anti-woke bill in 2022. Translation, anybody who is speaking on the advancement of people who happen to not benefit from white supremacy, You happen to be woke, and wokeness has to be stopped at all costs. And in the process of legislating that, because they did that, they got that passed. In the process of legislating that, and that's the problem with legislating bullshit, because there's always bullshit to follow bullshit, right? So I'm getting this from People Magazine. I'll give proper credit. I'm going to read some of this article for context. And then I'm going to ask John to comment. And then I'm going to ask Steph to comment after him. People Magazine. And the headline says Ron DeSantis defends new curriculum to teach slavery's benefit. Says scholars are behind it. I saw 2 black people scholars who were apparently the architects of this bullshit.
What?
And this is what they do.
They gotta get it.
This is what they do. Malcolm X said, if you want to put a message out that is detrimental to black people, and it's the face of white supremacy, then you get a black face to be the voice of it. Malcolm X said this. He'd been dead over 50 years.
And he wasn't lying.
He wasn't lying. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said on Friday that new education standards around teaching slavery in Florida schools will show that enslaved people were able to, quote, parlay, end quote, the skills they were forced to learn. DeSantis, who was speaking to reporters at an event in Utah, defended a new set of academic standards in his state that will require middle schools to teach that enslaved people, quote, develop skills which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit, end quote. A line that has ignited significant controversy amongst teacher groups and parents in the state. They're probably going to show that some of the folks that eventually parlayed, being a blacksmith, into doing things later in life, DeSantis said, adding that scholars put together the standards which he said were rooted in whatever is factual. Then DeSantis also tries to distance himself from the standards, saying, like most white folks say, and I'm not going to qualify white supremacy white folks with white folks who happen to be white folks, because I've talked to white folks who happen to be white folks, and a lot of y'all say this bullshit. I didn't do it. I wasn't involved in it. Really? I didn't do it. I wasn't involved
you said
in it.
They happen to be white folks.
Come on, man. Hey, look. If you offended, then turn it off. If you don't like what we turn it off, man. But if you want to hear the truth, you want to know what your black friend is thinking, the black friend that hang out with you, they don't ever say nothing, but every once in a while you'll say something slick and they just make a face, but they don't say nothing. That black folk. I don't care. I don't care. You know why, Steph? You know why, John? You know why I don't care? Because what we do on this show is we pull back the curtain. White folks who listen, because I'm the safe black guy. I'm not going to regret nothing.
No.
Been doing this for 12 years. I ain't going to regret nothing. 12 years almost. I've been doing this.
Yeah.
I ain't going to regret nothing. Nothing. Even coming from you.
Be ready, because I'm going to blow this shit.
I ain't going to blow it up, man. Get a bomb, blow it up. I don't care. But here's what I will say, and I'll give you the con, because I feel like I'm ranting right now. White folks often have the black friend who will not tell their white friend what black folks be normally thinking when y'all on the bullshit. And that's not all white folks, doing the whole disclaimer thing that Steph said that we not going to do. If you in your feelings about it, then you just in your feelings about it. But the reality is, when we see stuff like this and we hear quotes like, I didn't do it, I wasn't involved in it, that's when we know we can't fuck with you no more. That's when we know that we can't fuck with you no more, because that shows us that you're not paying attention. You don't understand what's going on. We know that you wasn't there. You 37, sir. We know that you wasn't there. I'm 49. I wasn't there either. But I know what the system is. I know what has been laid out for us. I know that there is different ways of implementing white supremacy. I know who Lee Atwater was when he said that you can't say the N-word no more. You got to say urban.
How to say it.
We got to say urban neighborhoods now. We can't call them N-words to their face because they figured out that that's not cool and they got enough strength behind them that they're going to challenge us. So we can't call them N-words no more. We can't spray the hoses on them no more. We can't sick dogs on. Well, we got a story about sicking dogs on black folks that we're going to talk about later too. So perhaps that's coming back. But yeah, there's that.
This show, yeah, we going on.
I said what I'm going to say, John. Blow me up, like you gonna blow.
No, not you, not you.
You gonna
great opening.
You already listen. Y'all been around me long enough now to know where this gonna go because this is me.
I'm still not okay with saying all. I'm still not okay with saying all.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But
I co-signed on that. I just am not going to be the one to consistently pronounce it.
Right.
You have to not be willfully or you have to choose to not be
consciously stupid. Yeah.
You know I don't mean all.
Yeah.
Right?
You know.
Y'all know.
And John, I'll say this last piece because Steph led me down this path. Martin Luther King, the same Martin Luther King they like to throw in our face when they steal little quotes from Martin Luther King.
Everything before and after.
Things like Martin Luther King was a Republican. His daddy was, he wasn't. And the two most dangerous things in this country, in this world, are sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity. The sincerely ignorant people are the ones, I didn't know. The conscientious stupid people, they know, they don't care. They're the same ones who looking at Chauvin with his knee on George Floyd's neck, and they're asking, "What'd he do?" You conscientiously, there's a reason for it. So John, I'm gonna step off the soapbox. Let me get 2 salutations in, and then I'm gonna step off the soapbox. Our sister Laurel is saying that's absolutely true. Thank you, sister. Thank you. My brother Robert Ralston. So moted be, my brother. It's so good to see you. It's hot as hell where you are. I ain't gonna call you out, but I know it's hot as hell where you are. I miss you, brother. And hopefully one day I get to shake your hand again. Stay cool, drink water, and love on your family. John, you got it. What you got, bro?
See, I ain't scared of them motherfuckers.
Me neither.
So I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say all, and
see.
I'm gonna mean it, and I'm gonna prove it.
Okay, got it.
Right.
Receives.
I'm gonna start here though, and I'm gonna get through this. You motherfuckers sit up here and champion Ron DeSantis. This is why I say all of y'all, right? Y'all send your children to Jefferson High School and live on Jefferson Street, right? And accept Washington, D.C. as your capital, right? All of y'all, fuck all of y'all. Because if you in this country and you identify as white, you're a racist piece of shit. Right? No, I'm gonna sit. Listen. I sat back and was quiet.
Yeah,
and I told you it's coming.
But I'm not.
And I'm gonna prove.
I'm not
co-signing. Don't
co-sign
and watch me prove it.
Yeah, you can't prove that.
Watch me.
You can't prove that.
Watch me.
I do not.
Because I ain't scared of you.
Yeah,
I ain't scared of motherfuckers.
Yeah,
I'm gonna prove it.
It's not about fear.
I'm gonna prove
it.
It
wasn't that long ago that somebody else said they're not scared. And
it's not fair.
I'm gonna prove it.
Okay, I
don't think that
let me prove it.
I'll just be clear. I don't agree with that.
Okay, listen. These are my thoughts. Don't have nothing to do with these two wonderful, beautiful people here, right? They feel like there's good white people in America, and maybe they are. And good is a relative term because they good to who they good to and who they good for, right? But to identify as white means you're racist, point blank. It's a construct, right? Period. Now, if you're in this country is a racist institution. This country is made on the blood of black people. And I hate using the term, but it's the one that y'all ignorant bastards understand. Florida is Seminole country. The native people, right? Seminole, black people. Blacker than Marcus and Steph, wore turbans with feathers in them. The Seminole people. That's their area, DeSantis. And guess what? Nobody who happened to be brought over here on a slave ship learned anything. They taught your dumbasses. Every skill they had, they brought here with them. What do you think the fucking point of bringing them over here was? You stupid motherfucker. And all of you white people who champion the other white people in power, you champion the other white people in power and then expect for me to accept you saying, oh, but that's not me. But you champion these motherfuckers. None of them are good. None of them. None of them. Not a single ass one. Now, if you tell me that you understand, right, you have empathy and compassion for the plight of the so-called black person in this country, I'll accept that. But not 1 second do I believe any last one of you motherfuckers would trade places with me or Marcus in a second. Be black for a minute. I fucking dare you. So don't sell me, don't hand me that bullshit about, oh, it ain't all. Of course it's fucking all. That's how it works. That's the whole point of this being black people and white people. So it could be all the time. Right? So let's forget about, and again, I'll get back to it. Let's forget about that bullshit. If you really wanna show me something, white people, right? So-called white people, you really want to show me something? Stop fucking identifying as white and stop calling black people black. Say I'm a person, I'm a human, I'm American, and this country is fucked up. And this country is fucked up because it was designed to be fucked up. This is not a mistake. Slavery wasn't a mistake. Chattel slavery. Racism is not a mistake. It's a deliberate functioning institution that's operating on all cylinders. It's damn near perfect, except for the fact that black people know how to take struggle and use creativity and get better for it. Every single time they try to do something that makes a black person's life hard, they figure a fucking way out to make money off of it.
That
right?
part.
You don't
Okay,
believe
for
you don't
real.
you
That
don't
part.
you don't believe me? You
That
don't
part.
believe me? Why do you think they was trying to shut down the internet? What do you think the Asian guy on TikTok on Congress TikTok? They ain't have shit to do with secrets to China and all that bullshit. That had to do with the fact that black people found out that they could sit their ass home, do funny shit on videos, and monetize it. That has everything to do with the fact that during COVID, you had young black people making tens and hundreds of $1,000s a month on the internet. That shit can't go. That shit can't go. So they put a stop to it. And all of y'all favorite white boy, Joe Biden, said, listen, if you got over $600, we're gonna report you. We gotta find out, and then we're gonna overtax you. And y'all sat up and accepted that. Oh, Joe Biden is good. Joe Biden's a piece of shit. Because he sat up in the Congress with known Klansmen, went to their house, had dinner with them, hugged and kissed their family. Right? If he wasn't a piece of shit, he wouldn't have accepted that. And don't tell me it's politics. He had to reach across the aisle. Only thing I'm going to reach across the aisle to do is choke a motherfucker. Right? Those people were not friends.
He said
Right? But they all friends with each other. But y'all are willing to accept the fact that they give a fuck about you? Stop the bullshit. Stop it now. And Ron DeSantis is running for president. If this country wasn't a racist institution functioning, right? Ron DeSantis wouldn't be running for president. He wouldn't be governor of Florida. He wouldn't be dog catcher. He wouldn't be shit because he ain't shit. Dumb as the day is long, stupid as a bag of fucking hammers, and y'all people want to big him up?
That's an epic rant. Y'all.
Listen, I'm gonna let it go now because if I keep going, we'll be in the next week's show.
Yeah, that's an epic rant. The only response that I will have is indifference. There are a lot of people who are indifferent, and this is the reason why I'm not going to co-sign to all of anything. I know that you do, and you're passionate about it. I receive and respect it, but there is no all, there is no absolute in everything, because every single black person that you know ain't for us. I talked about Clarence Thomas earlier. He ain't for us. And so if we can identify what some would call our own who are not for us, then I will never co-sign other cultures all being against us. And so
I got a response to that. But go ahead.
fair enough. Of course you do.
Right.
Of course you do.
Have we met you?
Yeah, have we met? Of course you got a response to that. But the show bears my name. And so I will have the last word on any conversation where we're denigrating everybody. I ain't cool with that. I'm not cool with denigrating everybody. That is the reason why I always focus on the system of white supremacy. Because guess what? There are black people who participate in the system of white supremacy, support, promote, and are the ones who make it as difficult, or in some cases more difficult for us than white people. Case in point, Clarence Thomas. You know why? Because you are supposed to be someone who knows better based upon where you came from, based upon how you got where you are, the history and the things that you have seen in your life would suggest, and I don't care that you're a Republican. That part I don't give a fuck about. I don't care about blood or cuz. I don't care about that. The fact that you are actively working against black people as a black man on the highest court in our country forever, right? Unless you retire or die, you're going to be there. That is more of a white supremacist than any of the white people that I know. You know why? Because you know better. Or at least you should. At least you should. And that is the reason why I'm never going to be okay with denigrating all of anybody about anything. Let me get a couple of comments in, and we're going to shift.
I could still have a response.
Let me get these comments in, then we'll shift back. Steph, you up next. John, you'll take you'll take, depending on what you say next, the final word.
I don't want to lose what you just said.
Okay, all right, then y'all come to you first. But I got the comments in. Our brother Robert, who is in a hot place, who I said I'm not going to say where he is. He says it's 112. You watching the news, you know where he's at. Our brother Albert,
Rob is there too.
Our brother Albert is checking us out. So more DB, brother. The brothers are checking in tonight, and I appreciate them. He says peace and blessings, fam. He's agreeing with what's being said. Sue said, which is why we don't get what is deserved. They have seen us do a whole lot of damn near nothing. And even playing field is their worst nightmare. Our brother Mike King is checking us out and says excellent content as usual. John, make your final point, and then I'll give the last word to Steph.
Do either you know who Edward Whitten is?
Mr. Whitten's kid.
He's a formidable mind on physics.
Okay,
right.
I was being a smart ass.
So I'm gonna explain this as quickly as I can. All is a relative term. There will always be outliers. Once you break a certain threshold of percentage, it is all, because mathematically the singular outlier will never show. Right?
Fair enough.
We
Point
are
taken.
not
Disagree.
We are not the only life in the known universe. Math tells us that. But for all intent and purposes, we are, because everything else so far away from us that it'll never make a difference. Right? The idea of black holes and wormholes is bullshit. It's theoretical. Understand that when I say all, again with the white folks, find me the 10 or 15 who would willingly take their children and tell their children, their babies, not themselves, because people might do some crazy shit for themselves, but take their white babies and tell them that you guys are going to go in this machine like Watermelon Man, and you're going to come out black, and you're going to live your life as black people in this country. Find them for me, and then I'll get up off my all, because you ain't going to find them. Because
I think that's an unfair request.
No white person.
I think that's an unfair request.
No white American
unfair request
wants the blood of their blood, the baby that she pushed out of her body or whatever the case
Unfair
is.
request.
Listen.
You talked about blowing up what I said. I'm gonna blow up what you said. You know
it's
why?
not an unfair
Because
request, Marcus.
middle class black folk ain't going to the damn projects.
It don't. No. You're
So,
not.
I hear you.
No, but
that's
ain't
my
not-
response
but
to
that's
what you
not
said.
the point. But
It is the point.
But no, but
it
y'all,
is the
I
point.
keep saying this shit, but y'all keep missing it. Let's try it one more
There's
time.
nothing, bro. I've been here
Race
with you
is
for
a
years. I know.
construct.
Yeah.
We
So
know
yeah,
that.
so
Yes.
on the black
Yes.
side and the white side, it's the same fucking stupidity. I don't give a shit about it.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to explain to you is this country and its design. Y'all acting like it's not working. It's working and it's been
Oh
working.
yeah, it's not a
We're not
conspiracy.
thinking
It's a plan.
White
It's a
people
plan.
who identify as white because of their conditioning. If they're in America and they've been here since World War I, right? They can't help themselves. They can't help themselves. I'm not saying they bad. I'm not saying go kill them. I'm going to get me a shotgun, kill all the whiteys I see. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is we need to get off the dumb shit about complexion and understand what we're facing in this system. And white people identifying as white and calling black people black is the fucking problem.
Hard stop. Steph, jump in here. Take the
This don't
final.
mean nothing. I don't want to see that. Look,
Nah, I love and respect where he's coming from.
this is
Absolutely.
because
We
the
need more Johns.
truth of the topic was that we're talking about the fact that one, they are going to be teaching a new quote unquote standard, and I will say this: nothing is more afraid than mediocrity. When people know they are mediocre, they will fight harder than anyone else. The people who are aware that they're at the bottom often aren't fighting that hard. They're trying to survive. They're not thinking about anything else other than hand to mouth. But when you have people who are clearly and markedly mediocre, which is people who were colonizers, enslavers, they literally could not make this country work. They could not figure out how to make this country work when it came to agriculture. They could not figure out how to develop this country without stealing the intellectual and physical labor of the African person. And that's why they went and did what they did. No one starts a business and says, let me begin it with a labor force that's irrelevant. They went and got a labor force that they didn't have the same level of knowledge, intellect, or physical power to produce the work that labor force could produce. They knew what was on the African continent. They went and found the people who were producing what they saw successfully being done on the African continent and brought them back here. So immediately the argument that slavery gave people a skill set and that's the benefit is a lie. You cannot give someone something that they already have. But the problem with this becomes that these are the same people who claim to have discovered something that already existed and people lived on. So you're not going to convince them of anything different. They believe the lie because it supports and helps them get past the mediocrity of their ancestry, period. Now, the second thing is, if this were the case, what DeSantis is saying, if it were the case that it let people become blacksmiths and so on and so forth, here's the next statement. When people came out of slavery, when the enslaved people were freed, they were immediately relegated to two roles: agriculture or domestic service. They were not given jobs like blacksmithing or smithing, as they would call it. They were not being allowed, even in the space of traveling through the Great Migration, they were not being immediately allowed to go and work in plants and things like that, or anything that was a part of the industrial development of America when they were freed, because that would mean allowing them something that I talked about earlier: access to wealth. It wasn't happening. The numbers prove out. Black women were immediately forced and relegated. As a matter of fact, in 1880, 35.4% of married Black women and 73.3% of single Black women were in the labor force, with only 7.3% of married white women and 23.8% of single white women. And those Black women were overly represented in domestic and agricultural environments, which eventually transitioned to service, which is why if you follow the fucking flag, sorry, Mark. Sorry, John. I don't usually say that on here, but I'm so annoyed.
Hey, John.
I'm so annoyed.
John.
I can hate y'all.
I knew it was
Hey,
coming.
John.
I
I'm
knew
so
it was
mad. I'm
coming.
Hey,
heated.
John. That's it.
Y'all so gay.
Fucking.
Well, I guess, yeah, you know, I'm a New Yorker. I pronounce all my
She put
syllables.
an adverb
Yeah.
on that joint.
I pronounce my syllables. Thank you.
Get it, girl. Go ahead,
But,
continue.
you know,
Simply
if you
unpack your adjectives.
if you know what, if you follow the flag, you will eat. And this is what annoys and angers me so significantly, is that we try to avoid and ignore the facts. If you follow the flag from the numbers and the percentage I gave you, and the fact that Black women overwhelmingly were reflected in the labor force post-slavery as domestic workers and agricultural workers and working in that space, if you follow the flag to this day, Black women are overwhelmingly representative of service work, which is why we were so impacted during the pandemic, which is why COVID hit them so hard. So again, this is why I don't argue with people about the long-term effects of slavery and Jim Crow, because you can always point to the facts. The numbers do not lie. Black women didn't just all of a sudden arrive as service workers. This is where they were relegated when they were freed. There was no one, Southerners did not have an intention to free slaves at all. Two, when they did, why the hell would you believe that the first thing they thought was, let's put them to work with the skill set that they have? The only skill set you cared about was the one that would continue to benefit you, not the one that would put money in their pocket. You already didn't want them free. Why, DeSantis, would you want me to believe that you wanted them in a space of where they could earn and take care of themselves and become distant and separate from you? You didn't want Black Wall Street to thrive. There were people using their skill sets, shoeing horses, smithing, opening banks, butchering. You didn't want that to survive. And that was many years post freedom. So the entire idea, this is what I want people to listen to, Black and white. In order for someone to sell you the initial lie that DeSantis is selling you now, you will then have to lie to yourself about everything that follows. And if you buy this initial line, and trust me, good liberal white people will tell you there were good plantation owners. They do this all the time. So this is not a far jump. I'm not surprised by this, but I'm just saying that a very reasonable, rational conversation is the fact that most Black people post-freedom entered into contracts of servitude. I want to read this one thing, even for their children, by the way. February 5th, 1870, they said that Mrs. M.A. Mason and Mrs. S.O. Mason promised to pay, this is post-emancipation, pay Eldridge Heath as wages for his child, Emily, during 1870, $15 in money, 2 homespun drapes, 1 pair of good shoes or clothing to the amount of $12, food in usual quantity for servants, and good quarters. The said Eldridge Heath promises that the said Emily, his child, should do diligent and faithful service during the year 1870 and be entirely at the service and under the control of the party of the first part during the entire year. So post-emancipation, because white people or white identified people in America made it difficult to use any skill set, including the ones they already came with. If you ever been to South Carolina and you ever seen wrought iron, Black people, African people created that. If you ever ate a grain of rice, Black people, African people brought it and taught them. And you know what? After teaching them, they were too lazy to want to do it themselves because it's work. So these Black people did this work. Anything you see, these people brought with them from West Africa, primarily. And then post-emancipation, you want to sell the lie that these people were given jobs, that all of a sudden they took these skill sets and were allowed to apply them. They did not allow them to apply them to the point of which Mr. Eldridge Heath turned around and indentured his own child to the same white family that he had been freed from to work for the rest of this child's life. This is why you can go well into the 1900s and find Black people that were working not as sharecroppers, but indentured servants. So I just want to tell you, if you're white and listening and you believe that Black people, African derived people who were enslaved were brought here skillless, then you're immediately admitting that white people here in America were bad business owners because you don't hire unskilled labor to do the type of labor that was necessary to build this country. Number one. Number two, you're also admitting that you're willing to believe the lie that those freed people were then allowed to come and work in your space. After you know the communities that they built to separate themselves as you wanted, as was wanted by your grandfather, by your great-great-grandfather. And I say this because we easily go to, oh, I wasn't a part of it. The mama and peepaw you kiss every night, they were a part of it. My grandmother's 90. 90 years ago in this country, my grandmother wasn't experiencing what I'm experiencing. This is recent history. My grandmother and grandfather were sharecroppers. They fled and went to New York because they were brave enough to go and seek. And even in New York, they had to work harder, 5 times harder, to find a way to thrive. Black people are still experiencing a failure to thrive based on how this country has been structured for the last 100 to 200 years. If you buy the lie that slavery was beneficial to Black people for the purpose of providing them with the skill set that your people supposedly who are so smart that they built a business with incapable, unskilled labor. No, they didn't. They built their businesses, which is what the plantation was, off of forced skilled labor that they went and stole. Then if you don't believe that, then you are willing to believe that the remaining 100 years through, when you didn't see Black people, and there are some of you who are listening who are old enough to remember there were no Black people in offices. There were no Black people owning laundries or anything in your communities or in mutual communities. You'd have to believe too many lies to buy the first one. And that's my challenge. Ask yourself how many lies you're willing to believe in order to believe that enslaved people were given a skill set when they already had one. That's it. That's all I'm going to say.
You know, I have Steppin with Marcus J. Live from NewDen, Legacy, Internet Radio. I'm going to shift us. I didn't get to say my corny thing. Can I say my corny? Can I say my corny thing? It's not really. It might bring us down. It's actually not really appropriate here because we're going to stay in a similar vein. But because I didn't say it,
the world is crazy.
Because the world is crazy. It's in a similar vein. But I'm gonna say it anyway. Can y'all do the things that y'all do with your hands and stuff? Like y'all ready for y'all part? All right, cool. I know I shouldn't have had to say that, but I know. Here we go. Let us move on. I just like how they go with me.
And the younger than Gen X crowd is like, huh?
Yeah, right.
That's the same crowd that didn't know LL used to be a rapper. I saw that on Twitter. I almost fell out.
Come on, man. I had the conversation with Mama J.
The man on NCIS was a rapper.
I will share with y'all later on offline because we don't have time here. But I was telling her about Crush Groove in 1985 when James Todd Smith walked in. That's the part. That's the part. That's the part.
You're gonna make me go home and watch it tonight.
That's the part. John.
He already knew.
Yo, man, there's no more auditions.
I said no more auditions. Stupid or something? Box.
Oh, I'm watching it tonight.
That's the part.
I need.
I was just telling Mama today about how
Grooving,
James Todd
body
Smith,
moving.
Dana Owens, and Will Smith are the three hip hop artists from the 80s who have seen every corner of entertainment,
Absolutely.
and they are.
O'Shea Jackson,
You could say that. I'm not saying that. You could say that. It's a fair argument. I'm
88,
not,
right?
I
it's a
wouldn't
fair, it's a
say
fair
it.
argument. I'm not co-signing it,
all right.
but it is a fair argument.
I
If
wouldn't
we
even
had-
say it about Ice-T.
if we had more time, I would debate it. Those three, pick another if you really want to do four for Mount Rushmore. But that is
Yeah, that's
where
definitely where it
hip hop
sits.
in the 80s to the current, that is your line right there. And that line right there, box. And if you don't know what we mean, too bad you're too young.
Tune in. Amazon Prime is $2.99. Pay to
Crush
watch
Groove.
it.
Crush Groove. Ballpark,
Get
30
on
to,
them raw.
30 to 45 minutes into the movie.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
ballpark.
about that.
Ballpark. Yeah. Shout out to Rick Rubin. All right. So
Oh man.
yeah.
Throwback.
So yeah, y'all gonna get me off. All right. So we gonna stay with how America be America-ing. And
I
so
like how you threw that R in the end.
America be
It's
America-ing. Yeah. Take a listen to how an officer unleashes a police dog on an unarmed black man, almost like it's the
Trigger warning,
1960s.
y'all.
A
Trigger
second.
warning.
Trigger warning. Here we go. Take a listen.
After an officer unleashed a canine on an unarmed black man who had his hands in the air. The encounter happened on July the 4th, but law enforcement officials just released the body cam video. Cines Polo Sandoval takes us through what happened.
The footage provided by Ohio State Highway Patrol is disturbing, but now under scrutiny after a man was mauled by a police officer's canine. July 4th, Jackson County, Ohio. A case report shows a highway patrol officer in a marked vehicle tried stopping the driver of this big rig for a missing mud flap. The man behind the wheel, later identified by authorities as 23-year-old Jadarius Rose, drives on, and a chase begins. About 20 minutes into the pursuit, the big rig is seen rolling to a stop.
Get out of the truck!
But that lasts only a few seconds. The driver continues to flee, and officers stay on him for another 8 minutes.
He took off again. We're heading northbound.
It wasn't until police used tire deflation devices
We're stopped.
that the chase came to a slow but dramatic and disturbing stop. That's a Circleville, Ohio Police Department K-9 unit rolling up to the scene. After repeated orders from state troopers, the driver eventually steps out of the rig, his hands in the air as requested. A patrolman is heard asking the K-9 to not be released, though it's unclear if he could be heard by all officers on scene. That's when the K-9 is deployed.
Do not release the dog with his hands up. Do not release the dog with his hands up. Do not release the dog with his hands up. Don't get the dog off of me.
After the K-9 takedown, an officer approaches, then quickly walks away, her hands covering her face as Rose screams in pain. The frustration audible in the voice of another state officer.
Was I not loud enough?
After the dog is removed, officers move in to arrest Rose and administer first aid.
Yeah, you just let a dog bite me.
All you had to do was come to me.
I was coming, all the guns pointing at me. How you do this for me to respect you? You got a gun pointing at me. It's like 20 of y'all.
All you had to do was stop, brother.
I did stop.
The spokesperson for the Ohio State Highway Patrol tells CNN, as troopers were attempting to gain compliance by providing verbal commands to the suspect, the Circleville Police Department deployed their K-9, which resulted in the suspect being bitten. CNN has reached out to the Circleville Police Department for comment. Police say Rose was taken to a local hospital where he was treated and released before being taken to jail. His attorney declined to comment.
Per that case report that was filed, Rose reportedly spoke to troopers while he was at the hospital being treated for his injuries, maintained that he had no idea why they were attempting to pull him over, that he was simply trying to haul a delivery to Grove City, Ohio, before making his way home. Meanwhile, the head of the Columbus, Ohio chapter of the NAACP saying that she is appalled by what she saw in this video and is calling for an investigation into the actions of that K-9 unit.
Ain't no half Steppin, Marcus J live from NewDen, Legacy, internet radio. Steph, you saw the video just like the viewers and I and John saw the video. What say you?
Wow. First of all, shout out to Michelle Wilson. She always says two things to me that week after week I'll see a video that proves out. One, there's a natural order to everything. And when we avoid the order, we are out of line and we experience different things. And often she's talking about relationships when she says that. Two, there's nothing new under the sun. They just revived the tactics. Now, Brother Man should have stopped. You, one of the people that I love dearly is a long haul trucker. You know those sounds of the siren. Stop. Throw that aside. I read the article, and the article in the New York Times talks about him being given two different orders. And this happens consistently. You have so much energy. You have to think about the amount of energy. Now, everybody's adrenaline is pumping. And I don't care if you have on a uniform, adrenaline impacts everybody in the same irrational ways. It will make you do certain things. So everybody's energy is pumping. In the article, it states that one officer was saying, walk toward me, and another officer was saying, get down. So he's standing there with his hands up, clearly hearing multiple things being screamed at him, and he's not reacting to either one. He's just standing there with his hands up, you can see, not sure. So once we get to that part, and you hear an officer saying, do not release the dog on him, and you choose to do that anyway, there is no other conversation. He was complying. It's not about he didn't comply 5 minutes ago. It's not about he didn't comply 10 minutes ago. Is he complying in the moment? And that's what people don't understand about law enforcement. It is not about retribution and retroactive results. You wait till you get to the court. The court will deal with whether he complied initially. As the police officer, you are not allowed, or you're not supposed to use your emotion. Mad that he didn't tell you. You're not a parent. I'm mad that you didn't come home at 10 and I've been sitting here since 9 o'clock waiting to see if you were going to do it, so I'm going to punish you. No, it's about what's happening in the now. So the officer should be punished, because in the moment, what you should be reacting to as a police officer is what this individual is doing right now in front of you. And in that moment, he was complying. You release the dog, you, the officer, are now the problem. The courts would have dealt with what happened 20 minutes before this. But in this moment, he's complying and his hands are up. And this will demonstrate to you why people of color is not something I want to talk about, because you do not see this happening. If you saw it happening to a greater degree with people who did not look like that guy, and it's not because that guy is any more criminalistic than anybody else. The statistics show he's not. Statistics show that Black people are not any more criminalistic. He clearly isn't a criminal because he had this license, and you know how hard it is to get a CDL and pass everything else. In this moment, he made a bad decision. But when he's out of the truck, he is complying. And the fact of the matter is, we have been trained systemically to treat certain people a certain way, and dogs have been a part of it. So much so that you have elder folks who are still afraid of dogs to this day. I have a 90-year-old grandmother. She don't want a dog in the house. And it's not just because the dog isn't clean to her. It's because of what a dog represents to her. Even my little tiny dog, she don't want nothing to do with it. So what we just saw was a usage of a systematic weapon against Black people being deployed. And the unfortunate thing is there will be people who will watch and justify it.
I have Steph Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy and that radio. We're getting some love in social media. This came in a little while ago. I'm tardy in the acknowledgement, and that's on me. But my big sister and favorite cousin in the whole world, Cousin Terry, is checking in. Cousin Terry says,
Hey,
peace,
cousin.
family. Hey, girl.
Hey, cousin.
I love you. Tell my auntie I said hey. Ain't no half step. Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy and Radio. John, they sticking dogs or people, man.
You know what? I don't want to laugh at this. Stop, Marcus.
I gotta have humor or else I will snap.
I get it.
Yeah.
Laugh to keep from fighting.
Girl. What you got, John? I'm a mess, yo. I'm a mess, though. Let me turn my mic off while I talk about how I'm a mess.
Me too.
I'm going to tell y'all this. And listen closely, folks. Listen closely. And I'm speaking to all you motherfuckers, all of y'all. Right? Again, all. Right? All. And I'm going to tell you why. When they so-called abolished slavery and they grouped everybody together, they made it about color as opposed to about status or money or what you education, anything. All that had to do was the color of your skin. When they did that, they enacted a certain group of laws that would adversely affect only black people because they were meant to be enforced only to black people. Right? Those are the majority of the laws. They say, oh, black people blocked up so many black people because the laws were designed for black people. Loitering, trespassing. You freed 1 million people with no place to go. So wherever they went, they were loitering or trespassing. Disorderly conduct. When they was on the side of the road and started the fire to try to stay warm or cook some food, that's disorderly conduct. They locked them up. And then after they locked them up, their jail rented them back to the plantation. And guess what? The plantation was no longer feeling like they had to feed them or do anything to them. So it got worse. It got worse after the abolishment of slavery, you stupid bastards. Right? And I watch all these white people around this. I watch these white people around this black man right here, and they suck the dog on him. I'm not on his team either, honestly. Right? But guess what? When he did pull over, maybe he was in the car with the music blasting and shit, and he was focused on the road trying to get where he was going. He maybe ain't see the lights or whatever. But the dude said that he pulled him over for a missing mud flap. So check this out. Again, you so-called good white people. Y'all enact these laws and do all of this kind of shit. Don't you think it would make more sense that they would just run the plate, right? And through the computer, get a man a ticket for the mud flap. So there was suspicion of some criminal activity that warranted him being pulled over? No, there wasn't. He probably saw that, when you pull over to the side of a truck, if you look in the mirror, you can see the face. That white bastard saw that was a black man driving a truck. He ain't like the idea of that black man driving that truck. So he said, I'm going to pull him over. He pulled him over, and when he finally pulled over, he pulled out an assault like he was on SWAT or some shit. Did you see the gun he pulled on him? I'd have pulled the fuck off too.
I saw the gun, John.
Right? And then man said, what do you want me to do? It's 50 of y'all and one of me, and y'all got guns on me. What the fuck do you expect me to do?
He said that. Not quite that poetically, but he did say that.
So again, when we hear this kind of one, I'm not shocked. And because I'm not shocked, I'm no longer outraged. Because it's the standard practice. This is what we do.
Yeah.
This is America. You motherfuckers ain't figured it out yet. This America.
I think he said fuck.
And I go
even if
and travel around the world with my American passport proudly. Proudly, I stand behind that passport. And you know why I do? Because I know that the rest of the world know we some evil motherfuckers over here. That we do mean and ruthless shit. So if I'm someplace out in the world and somebody decide to do something bad to me, they think about it. Wait a minute, he's American. And some of them crazy people in America who do crazy shit might come fuck us up. So we ain't gonna do nothing to him. So that's why I rock my passport proudly. Because I'm protected by the evil of this country when I travel around the world. But please, y'all, let's not act like this is something new or something special or something different.
It ain't.
This is par for the course.
Standard
Yeah,
operating
It's regular
procedures.
smeggler.
Yeah.
Regular smeggler shit.
It ain't. Cause
Right? And he lucky that they didn't shoot his ass after they took the dog off.
No, you're right. You're right about that. Cousin,
Stop reaching for my gun.
Cousin Terry says, "Hey, loves, John, speak on it. Ain't no how Steppin, Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy in that radio. All right, it is the top of the second hour of the show. We're gonna do one more segment, then we're gonna get out of here with our rants and our closings. I will just play the clip from Dr. Umar Johnson about the black church.
Even a broke clock.
And then we will, there you go. Can you say that into the mic?
Even a broke clock can be right twice.
That is the only preamble we need. Dr. Umar, take it away.
Black folks, have you noticed that you don't see the black church dealing with police genocide
at all?
You don't see the black church dealing with miseducation. You don't see the black church dealing with unemployment. You don't see the black church dealing with mass incarceration. Can you name one thing that the black church is at the forefront of changing for black folks? You can't. Why? Because in Y2K, the new millennium came with a new takeover of the black church. The federal government now owns the black church. FBI, faith-based initiative. Your pastor is the new snitch.
Now that's deep.
That was deep. John, he
What?
said the new snitch. You got the con first. Now,
I need
before
Richmond pastors to listen to what.
before we get into it, right? This is the final segment, right? And we're going to give this 10 minutes between the three of us. I'm only doing the time thing because we are at the end.
Yeah, right.
And this is one of them topics where we could
go long.
we could go longer than that, but we're not going to because of time. So you got it. Steph's going to take it. I'll take the final word. That's what, three-ish minutes each.
33.333.
I don't 3, right? And I don't normally regulate us specifically the time, but on this we need to, because this is one of them topics that we could all go over for a variety of reasons, because I think that we all are passionate about the things he was saying, perhaps potentially for different reasons, but it's one of them things that we can go over. So 3 minutes each. Go. You up first, John.
Black people in this country will never accomplish anything until they give the white man back his God. I've said that I don't know how many times. And because the Pillsbury No Doughboy says that your pimp is the new snitch, we supposed to think that that's something. There ain't nothing new about that. They've been snitching. Like they've been pimping your mamas and your wives and stuff. Most of the men don't go to church. The women go. Take the money, put it in the basket, and get pimped out. While this dude drive his car, like, lost in turn. Don't buy that guy no Seville. You dumbasses. Right? So, matter of fact, y'all could take the rest of my time. That's
They don't have Steph Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy in that radio. All right, so yeah, we've been calling our listeners dummies a lot lately. I don't know how.
Are we calling our listeners? I don't.
Not directly.
No.
But
You talking about the collective
There's
of
a
America?
difference.
I'm not speaking to him directly.
No.
I called them
There's a
dummies earlier.
difference between our listeners and the motherfuckers that listen.
bad
We know y'all out there.
My character's in question. I'm a terrible
But no.
person.
Marcus,
Y'all should come for me. Y'all
No,
should say bad things about me, and y'all should fill my inbox with all kinds of.
Please
bad
don't.
I gotta
Please
say this.
don't, because I'll be Brooklyn
Marcus, I
Betty
gotta
on
say
it.
this.
So please don't.
Marcus,
Please don't.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
I gotta
Don't
say
do
this.
because I know this man too well. He's a good.
Hold on, I gotta say this.
Y'all know that was kayfabe, right? Wrestling fans know what I just said.
That's right.
Sorry, John.
I gotta
you
say
have forced
this.
me back into WWE.
I'm watching.
I got. Listen,
Raw right now.
I gotta say this, y'all. I gotta say this. There's a big difference. Listen up. There's a very big difference between our listeners
It's a woman called the man.
and people that are out there listening. When I say you stupid bastards, I'm talking to the people out there listening. Because our listeners are getting the information. And even when they disagree, they give us feedback and we give them feedback. Those are our listeners. But you bastards that's listening, that's who I'm talking to when I call you stupid. Not our listeners.
You just happen to come across us on Tickety Top.
Hey, look, I thought he was gonna clean me up.
He ain't do much.
All he did was
You thought, wait.
he took the mess and went like
Have
this.
Have you met John Green?
I know,
Come on.
He took the mess I made stuff and
And
went.
he's like, I like this man.
We're not talking to our listeners.
I know, and I you know, I almost put my foot in my mouth by saying that. And thank you for cleaning / dirtying it up.
I love it.
I love it too.
I love it so much.
Steph, what you got?
Listen, you know, lately there have been a few times one thing I'll say about Dr. Umar, he's an equal opportunity offender. I have not liked some of his ideas or thoughts. And then there are some where he's spot on in his reflection on what we need to be doing. John made a very good point. And I'm a girl who grew up in the church. My grandfather was a pastor, who, by the way, wasn't the church wasn't his personal revenue. He worked as well to provide for his family. The church was his way to educate and help others, just like it was for my grandmother. Black women are the predominant target for the Black church. They are taught to stick with us, and keep coming and praying, and God will give you abundance if you just keep putting money in the plate. And don't throw your terrible husband out. Keep praying for him, and come every week and pray more for him. And they will never support women as a individual entity. The only thing they see women as is a continued source of revenue, because men do not go to church. Black men do not go to church the way Black women do, not in the same numbers. And it's clear. It's clear in the quiet director. It's clear in the book. So the Black church, the Black church benefits from two things: one, history, and hiding behind that history, and two, governmental assistance. Because they can't be excluded from what white churches benefit from, which is tax breaks and the ability to be able to bring in money, not only untaxed, but really unmonitored. So once you enter the Black church into that, it's just a church, and it's going to do some of the same things. What I have a problem with is the Black church was once the leader in the civil rights movement. The Black church once was willing to be in a position of where it would get burned down. Martin Luther King's mother was shot and killed in the Black church.
In church.
At the
At the
organ.
piano.
Playing the organ.
Playing the organ in front of everybody.
In front of everyone.
Yep.
Right?
How many people actually know that?
Not many.
I'm glad you brought
His
that
mother
up.
was a martyr, and he became
I have a
martyr.
dream. That's what they know.
1974, the same year I was born.
That's right.
Yep.
So this man continued what he was doing. This
Through his
man's
mama.
legacy impacted his mother even post that. I mean, it's crazy.
6 years after he died.
That's right. That's right. And so
Outrageous.
So
was murdered. We got to be clear.
When
Murdered.
you murdered, when you look at when you hear Dr. Umar say that, you may be somebody who's a plate pusher. And I say the plate pusher, you're sitting in the pew waiting for somebody to give you, and you're happy to put your little envelope in. And you can't wait for them to know you paid your monthly tithe because you believe the prosperity doctrine and so on and so forth. Okay, but what the average plate pusher doesn't recognize and doesn't think about, the church really, you're going, and the church is promising you something you cannot see. In the sales world, we call it the intangibles, right? When you're selling something that people you may or may not realize it. You just have to do it on faith. So in the sales world, there are the things you can gather in your hand, and there are the things that are harder to sell because you can't feel or touch them. It's faith, not sight, right? And the unfortunate part about what's happening with the church now is they are the salesperson that only sells the intangibles. And I understand that your faith is an individual thing. And I'm saying that because I know Black women will see this later and look at me as a Black woman and how can, God has done so much for me. Maybe you did it for yourself, sis. Maybe your hard work and your degree and your willingness to go out there and do this over and over again, it maybe that's how it happened. Now, I'm not saying I don't have faith or my own spiritual connection. I'm just saying the church doesn't do that for me. You should question, Black women, because you are the ones who are the plate pushers, why the church is not involved in causes that impact you. Forget Roe v. Wade, because I already know why the church is not going to stand behind that. But acts of violence against the Black community, you birthed the Black community. The sons of the Black community, the George Floyds, and the ones who are not questionable, as many people will say about George Floyd, they come from you. So why isn't the church that you push the plate for showing up to fight? And I'm going to say that even here in the city of Richmond, right where we live. I know the political activists here. I know the fighters here. Many of them are women of faith. Most of them are not your pastors and churches, unless they also got into politics, which is now benefiting them personally. And that's a whole other conversation. You can feel how you want to feel about it, but that's the truth. Ask yourself why you don't see your pastor. You didn't see your pastor when the monuments were coming down. Ask yourself why your pastor wasn't leading why isn't your pastor at the school board meetings? Why aren't pastors showing up in Florida at these school board meetings, putting the fear, quote, of God in these people? Because government is their new daddy. He's right. Government is their new daddy. And Black churches are afraid to ruffle the water. See, back in the day, Black churches didn't have the benefit of this tax benefit. They didn't have the benefit of the money coming in. Also, I want you to notice when politicians show up at your church. Stump time. I'm heavily involved in politics. I rarely have seen a politician in person unless I go to their rallies or they show up at a church because they want to get your vote. But if we talk about Black institutions that are struggling or need help, or Black causes, and I'm saying Black causes because there are things impact. $14,000 is the median income in the average Black household. I will promise you that your pastor is not a part of that 14,000. And what he's telling you is put something in the plate and pray. And you too may not be a part of that 14,000. Matter of fact, I went to a mega church right here some years ago, one time, and sitting there, this pastor made fun of the people and said, you are not driving what I drive, and you're on the bus line because you don't have faith. That's not why, bruh. Wife has an armor bearer walking through Nordstrom's, buying high-end shoes. Plate pusher. You have to acknowledge that your relationship with God is not your relationship with the Black man in the pulpit. It's not your relationship with Creflo Dollar and his G6. It's not your relationship with the local pastor that makes you wear an armband and walk around and be a part of his cult. It ain't him, honey. If God loves you, he's going to bless you. He don't need you to have an intercedent, which is what it is what you're waiting. You're no different than the Catholic you judged who prays to Mary, hoping that she'll get you to Jesus. You're praying to your pastor, hoping he gets you closer to God. And your pastor is not caring for the community you're birthing. In this case, Dr. Umar is right. The government is your pastor's daddy. Your pastor is breastfeeding from the government and ignoring the needs of the children in your community. And you keep pushing his plate. That's all I got to say.
Ain't no hashtag Marcus J Live from NewDen Legacy Net Radio. I'll take the final word on this before we move into our final vestiges of the show with our moment in Black history. I got at least one. that ain't Black history. That's just a personal indulgence in the moment that happened 40 years ago this week. But I'll get to that in a moment when I get to the history. But when I hear things like this, right, I think about when me and Damon were in high school and we were at Monumental Baptist Church in Jersey City, church that my mama and my grandmama went to. And we would sit in the pulpit with Reverend Dr. Willard Ashley, who was our pastor when we were young. And we liked him, but we didn't like being in church. Like Damon was the junior deacon who I would make fun of.
Damon the junior deacon.
Damon was the junior deacon. And you know, our origin story as brothers is well.
You know, that would make him a high value man today.
Yeah, but that was 35 years ago. I don't know if that's
high value man,
but
Jesus
you know, when
Christ.
we was kids, he was the junior deacon, and I didn't like him because he was always in the faces of the church folks. And he didn't like me because I clearly didn't want to be there. I didn't, because you know me, I say it with my face. Like, if I don't want to do something, if I don't like something, you gonna know. My body language, my energy.
Big Gemini energy.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So by the time we connected, we would go to church and we would sit through the first couple of parts. And then as soon as Glad to Be in the Service came, because most churches have Glad to Be in the Service, that's when the preacher gets up there and says, shake the hands of your neighbor.
Look at your neighbor.
And then the band would start playing it, and then you start dancing, and then the song is cool, it's catchy. Glad to be in service. Glad to be in service. You know what I mean? And then you go around, you start shaking everybody's
I'm so glad
hands.
my grandmother watched it.
One more time, right? And me and Damon, we would be like, glad to be in service. One more time out the door. And we right on the corner with the pimps and hustlers buying 25-cent juices and bags of chips, standing there, and we timed it. And we would always look at the clock because we knew when Reverend Ashley was going to start.
Cent,
you know, we knew when the juices, because we knew when Reverend Ashley was going to go on. You know, go on as in, you know, a performer. He was going to go on. So we would get in right at the end of the announcements, and we would always be there for the word. So we would clown and talk our shit like I'm doing now, but we always would be there for the word because we always wanted to hear what the preacher had to say. But it was the rest, it was the theatrics, you know, and the stuff that we just wasn't for. And I say it tongue-in-cheek and obnoxiously to make the point that churches ain't for everybody, man. You know, it's almost like you get two people, the Bible tells you, or maybe it ain't the Bible, church folk tell you, get two people and you got church. Maybe it's in the Bible. I don't know. I ain't read that part. I just know that's what they say. Get two people, you got church.
When two or more gathered in his name.
Two or more gathered in his name. Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking
that's the part that I'm talking about. Thank you, John. Well, Damon and me was two or more on the corner with the chips and the 25-cent juices, going back in there and listening, because we knew as teenagers that just wasn't for us. That ain't our thing. Now, our mothers and our families have long-standing history in that, and in that church and in church in general. Just wasn't our thing, because we understood in 1990 when we became brothers, and even before that when we weren't connected, what it was. Well, I did. He was the junior deacon. You know, yeah. But in all seriousness, we understood. Now, here's the thing that I've dealt with for the last 30 years, because I am very robust in my rhetoric with regards to that. I ain't no Christian, but I know I'm not here alone. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand that. And the problem that I always had with Christians and Christianity and people, you know, like Dr. Umar I was speaking to, if you don't believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sins, you're going to hell. Well, I guess I'm going to hell. And I guess all the Muslims going to hell too. And everybody who happens to not be a Christian, all us going to hell. What kind of God are we praying to, going to send all his peoples to hell just because they don't believe a certain kind of way? That shit don't even make no sense. You can't say shit when you're talking about church. Yes, I can. That shit don't make no sense. It just don't. It just don't. And then when you look at the history of how our churches have been, it is not consistent with how our churches are today.
No.
Civil rights, like I think Steph, one of you guys said, I think it was you, they were the pillar of our communities.
Yes.
They were, you went to get information on how we gonna move. Now, it just seems like they'll do their
Prosperity.
sermon, and then the first thing they're gonna do after that is, let's talk about the giving. And I can dig it, because you can't run a church on prayers. You know what I'm saying? But it just does not feel to me when I walk through the neighborhood and see a church on every corner in Jersey City and in Richmond, the towns that I know most intimately, it just does not feel to me as authentic as it should be. And our streets shouldn't look the same. I'm listening to a podcast. I won't spend a lot of time on it because it's for another time. But the podcast is called The Set, S-E-T, The Set. And it's talking about police corruption in New York City in the early 90s. You know about that 30th precinct in Harlem. If you don't know, Google it. It was some weird shit going on. But one of the things that I can speak on is a pastor who said, for Lent this year, because every year in Lent we give up something, right? For Lent this year, we giving up the drug dealers on the street. So all you got to do, put a little piece of paper in the collection plate when we pass it around, because we're going to ask for our money. But we're going to ask for you to give up something too. And we want you to give up the street, right? And in the course of doing that, those names ended up in the hands of the police, and it was the names of the dealers in the street and the nefarious characters in the street and the crooked cops. They gave up everybody. That's what the church should be doing. That's how you lead. That's how you tell your parishioners how to be viable in a safe manner. You scared to give up the street. I can dig it. Don't nobody want to say Craig did it, and Craig standing there, and Craig see you saying Craig did it. Now you wondering what's going to happen to you because you done pointed Craig out in front of everybody. You know what I mean? So this was an example of how the church can be a leader and how the church can help purge the scourge of the community. This is what we are supposed to be doing, right? So, well, not allegedly. This is what we're supposed to be doing. Allegedly, we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. Ain't no allegedly. So I don't want to debate it because we're at the end. I see you. I receive you. I don't want to debate it because we're at the end. So I think I said enough on that point. I'm going to move us to the moment in Black history, the missing children, then our rants in closing. And I got something else that I want to do tonight as well. Y'all see, I haven't said it aloud, but y'all see, right? Got a new thing I want to do after I do this moment in history, right? So the first thing I'm going to go, 1868, the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution is ratified, declaring all persons born or naturalized in the United States, including Black people, us too, are citizens and guaranteeing equal protections of the laws. Yeah, they ain't do that shit, right? And then 1972, Washington Star reports Tuskegee syphilis experiment by the United States Centers of Disease Control using poor Black Alabama sharecroppers. Marcus J., why you always talking about that? Because y'all treat us fucked up. And I need people to know because it's still happening. Ain't no how Steppin, Marcus J. live from NewDen Legacy and the radio. Before I do this missing child, that shit's sad. Missing children always sad. Before I do missing children, I want to talk about affirmations. Do the history, affirmations, missing children, right? Got these cards, right? Y'all can't see it. Well, maybe I'll put it close, right? It says affirmation cards. Affirmation cards, right? I saw this in a store recently, and I bought it, and I carry these cards. They're like playing cards, but they're like affirmations. And I shared it with John, who I love, and Steph, who I love. and myself, who I love, and we each pulled a card. You're gonna think I'm gonna say I love y'all and not say I love me. I love me, y'all. I'm dope. Yeah, I'm dope.
You
So
couldn't possibly do one without the other.
absolutely, my brother. So what I will do is I want us to read the cards. Now, hopefully my memory will allow me to bring this to us every single week. but we here now. We here now.
Leave it in the bag, Marcus.
It stays in the man purse.
Then you shouldn't have a problem.
Yeah, man purse, just like my crystals, right? So as we normally go around the room and John leads us off and Steph follows and I close us out, all we're gonna do is read the cards and then we're gonna do the missing child. And we'll leave it to the viewers and listeners to respond if they choose to. But I think this is awesome because you each read these cards random. You pulled these cards randomly. Like I didn't say, here, take this card. Like you pulled it, and I pulled it as well. So John, you up first. You can share an anecdote if you choose to, but what I would prefer, read the card. Let's move on for all of us. You up first, John. What you got?
Today I am receptive. Today I will let go of the past. I will live in the present, and I am looking forward to a top flight future. Not the mall, Craig. Not the mall. The whole world.
That last part wasn't on the card. Steph, what's your card say?
It says, today I am powerful. Today I know that I have the power and the wisdom to accomplish everything I choose to do.
My sister. I love that for you. I have a card that says, today I will breathe. Today, as I face challenges, I will call a mental timeout. I will consciously breathe with my eyes closed and focus on slowing my inhalation and exhalation. I love those affirmations. I love that I love that for us. And I like the idea of us sitting with our affirmations all show. You want yours back? You want to take a picture, John? I'll give you yours back.
No, I'm good.
Okay, you good. I like with us sitting with our affirmations all show and then sharing them at the end. I don't know if how y'all feel about that, but
I like that we could all read.
Yeah. It's fundamental, isn't it?
And
Yeah.
I don't mean, when I say read, I don't mean announcing and pronouncing the words on the card. I mean actually read. You people don't know the difference. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm dumb as fuck. But yeah, people in this room know how to read.
Yeah, we know how to read. Yeah. We have grand oratory, ain't that something? And we have big words. You have the colossal gall to say that. Yeah. Yeah, how about that? Ain't no ask Steph Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy and Radio. All right, let's get to our rants and our closing so we can send everybody home. All right, so this is the part that I like the least. I don't like this part. All right, so tonight we're looking for Heaven Chappelle. She's missing from here in the Cap, Richmond, since July 11th. She was born on March 29, 2009, which makes her 14. Black female, 5 foot, 130. She might still be here local. We're looking for Heaven Chappelle. If you've seen her, please contact the National Center for Missing and/or Exploited Children on their website, missingkids.org. If you happen to be local here, contact the Richmond Police Department at 804-646-5100. We're also looking for Zayel Swan. She's been missing since July 14th. She's 14. She's 5'1", 118. Here in Henrico, part of the Cap. Last seen wearing a green shirt, black shorts, black cleats, black shin guards. Also has a nose piercing on the right side of her nose. Black cleats, black shin guards tells me she's the athlete. You might be able to notice that in her gait, how she moves. It might be something that's important to her. She might be talking about it. So Zael Swan, keep your eyes open for her. So if you are in the cap, Henrico County Police Department's phone number is 804-501-5000. Lastly, we're looking for Taisha McCoy, also 14, Henrico. She's 5'6", 130. Last seen wearing unknown description of clothing. So if you've seen Taisha McCoy, also Henrico, 804-501-5000. Let's recap. We're looking for Heaven Chappelle. We're looking for Zael Swan. We're looking for Taisha McCoy. And as we always will do on this show, until she comes home, we are looking for Keisha Jacobs. We're going to always look for Keisha Jacobs. And so we're going to add our sister Keisha Jacobs to the missing children. She's a grown woman now. She's a grown woman when she went missing back in 2016 here in Richmond, in the Church Hill area near Chimborazo Park. Those of you who are familiar with that part of town. So if you've seen Keisha Jacobs, if you have seen any of the others that we were looking for today, please contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and their website, missingkids.org, or contact them at 1-800-LOST, 1-800-843-5678. Please, please, please find our missing and bring them home to their mamas and their daddies and their families. Ain't no hashtag Marks J live from NewDen Legacy and the radio. Time for John and Steph and yours truly to send you home with a word. That word we call our rants. We call that word our closings. As we share with you what's on our mind, and perhaps maybe you was thinking it. Maybe you think we out our damn minds, but it's a staple. It's a staple I'm proud of, and I know John is first. He is the leadoff hitter. And if you're a baseball fan, you know how important that person is. John, you have the con. My brother, take us home. What you got?
Thank you, Marcus. And always thank you for the platform and all that. I guess if I'm leadoff, that makes our listeners clean up, right? That's a beautiful thing. Thank y'all all for tuning in. We appreciate y'all a great deal. I'm going to try to make this as quick as I can. And I'm going to try to, touch on some of the things we discussed this evening. You got to stop buying into the system. And that's the problem. We're too accepting of the things we were taught. We were taught wrong. Trust me, if it was any way beneficial to us, they wouldn't have taught us. Right? Let's be clear. Was there a transatlantic slave trade? Of course it was, but I happen to know 90% plus were all males. I also happen to know like 400,000 only made it to this coastline. So who did they breed these people with? They breeded these people with the black people who were here. Not the typical native that you're used to seeing, which were nomadic tribes of the plains on the other side of the Mississippi. We weren't over there. We were over here. I also happen to know that King James, a lot of this city was about King James, right? He was a Tawny, a swarthy also. This is facts. Y'all don't believe me? Google it. Tawny and swarthy. That means he looked like me, King James. And that was part of the problem with the colonizers wanting to get away from things, right? Because over in Europe at the time, your complexion didn't have anything to do with who you were. It was about your status, your education, your ability, and what you brought to the overall community, right? And in 1492, when the Moors gave back Europe to the Europeans, said we didn't want it no more. We brought y'all out the caves, taught you how to bathe, right? Since we did that, we don't want it no more. We leaving. Y'all decided that y'all was going to sail over here where y'all already knew we were, right? Ain't nobody discover shit. Was nobody trying to get to India. They knew where they was going and what they were going to do. Come over here and steal shit, because that's what they do. They steal shit, right? So we buying into the narrative, oh, the slave trade and the budget. Nah. It was a takeover. It was a war. And that's what happened. And we sit up and we buy into the lies. We got to stop it. It's all of it's capitalist society. We all about money over here. What was the song? Fuck snitches, get money. Right? That's what we do here. And we need to stop thinking about all of these distractions. I keep trying to tell y'all, stop being distracted. You need to get, if every person in the sound of my voice spent as much time on their phone learning a skill, getting something, learn programming, even though that AI is about to take that away from y'all. Learn project management, even though AI is about to take that from y'all ass. Learn some shit, right? And stop and get off the social media. The average person, the average black person spends like 4 hours a day on social media. Take that. If you take 4 hours of focus 3 days a week, it won't take you long to acquire a skill that can get you paid, right? And when you get your money, shut up about it. Do something good with it. Make your life better for you and your family and stop buying into this bullshit, right? Black people were here, black people all over the world since there was a world to be all over, right? White people came over here and murdered shit. They made agreements and lied about it. They turned around and murdered people, intentionally gave people diseases. Talk about the Tuskegee experiment, small beans compared to the smallpox experiment. When they traded blankets, they ain't need the blankets. The natives didn't need the blankets. Powhatan and his people ain't need no blankets, but they took it as a gesture of kindness because you don't reject the offer. When they came over and fed these people and kept them from starving because they came over here with no skill. What was that shit? We taught them, they benefited. Them bastards came over here not knowing shit because you know what? All of them were criminals. Every so-called pioneer coming over to this country that wasn't a ship's captain was a criminal. And they gave them money to take prostitutes and bring them over here to start families. Took them out to jail, took the men out of jail. Said, here goes some money, get a prostitute, get on this ship, go over there and work this colony for us. And that's what they did in pre-1776. In the government, the African people who were here, the black people who were here played a dominant role in every aspect of this government. Of the 7 people who were presidents of the Continental Congress before it actually became a country, 5 of them were so-called black people. Right? Or at least swarthy, tarny, look like me. Right? So again, get off the narrative. If they told you about it, if they made it accessible for you to read, question it. Don't just believe it. Just don't just go with it. And at best, ignore it. Right? It's all about getting money. We could talk about all this other shit and the kindness and that Marcus. I love Marcus and Steph loves me and Marcus and so on and so. None of this shit would be happening if we wasn't getting money. Wouldn't be no show. Wouldn't be no equipment, internet, computers all over the place and shit. Nah. No. In order to do anything, you got to get money. And all you lazy, stupid bastards who ain't doing shit, start doing something and get some money. And that's my rant.
Half Steppin with Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. John, I thank you, bro. I appreciate where you where you go, where you went. You always leave us with a jewel. Tonight was no different. So appreciate you being a leader amongst your people. So thank you for being you. Steph, it's time for you to take us home. We joked earlier about you being the only girl in the room, but that just gives us a reason to treat you special. And you deserve it, even if you wasn't a girl.
Thank you, Marcus.
Yeah.
I don't need no reason.
I had no reason to be nice to Steph.
Thank you,
She's
fellas.
nice to me.
Easy.
Yeah, and she's cuter to you, bro. No offense, but
Even if she was mean to me, I still treat her special because she's Steph B.
Yeah. No, do the Luther.
I need that recorded for the Hustlers High.
Yeah,
I do. I need that recorded. I'm gonna give y'all little royalties.
Your people call our people.
Yeah, I
people
got
call
you, I
our
got
people,
you.
and then our people return the call
That's
of your
right.
people. What you got, Steph? Take us home with your rant, your closing.
First of all, shameless plug. You guys know that we have been working on Michelle Wilson and I have been working behind the scenes on launching RVA The Talk, which is our own radio platform that will host lots of creators. I hope, and I'm springing this on the fellas, I hope to even bring Ain't No Half Steppin' pre-recorded over to RVA The Talk so that even more people can hear it. But we are looking for creators that don't want to build their own radio station, but want to build their own radio show. And so if you are wanting to connect with us, reach out to me or Michelle at hello@rvathetalk.com. The hard launch so that you can be preparing your clock wheel and all those good things is September. We already have creators that are signed up, that have commandeered their time slots and are ready to go. There's a lot to it. It's not taking the Hustlers Hive and going to someone else and saying, okay, this is my show. It's literally having to build a platform. And, and so I think people who don't know what it takes to actually launch the station, you understand, Marcus, and people like Tech out there with 101, the fam understand that to do something like that takes, it takes time. You got to do it the right way so that it launches the right way. And September is when you will be hearing Hustlers Hive. You will be hearing The Stoop. We have some names that I cannot mention that are bringing their own radio shows. But again, it's hello@RVA The Talk. You do not need to be in RVA. That is the home for RVA The Talk. And we're looking for people who have something to say. The tagline is, I hear smart people, and that's what we want. And for me, smart is not just witty. It's people who are able to communicate in a way that reaches the masses' ears well, like you fellas do every Monday. So just want a little plug there. Thank you both. I've missed you. 2 to 3 weeks is too much time, but
way too long.
The vacation is appreciated, Marcus, but I do miss you fellas. I want to talk about Carlee Russell. We did not get a chance to discuss her tonight.
Damn it.
And because there were developments in what happened, my rant isn't really about Carlee. It's about the resulting conversations. I'm always very clear that I prioritize the needs and concerns of Black girls and Black women first and foremost, because they are the most underserved community here. It is hard to even get women who do not look like us, but have some of the same issues as it relates to body, mind, and soul to listen. It is hard often for other women who are not Black to think about the maternal health issues that face Black women. And it is extraordinarily, and I thank Marcus J, because every week he focuses on this every time we're on air. But it is extraordinarily difficult to get people to pay attention to Black women and Black girls who go missing or who are murdered. And because of that, I'm going to speak about the Carlee Russell situation from a perspective that I think is overlooked in people's overzealous desire to be, keyboard warriors and to do what comes natural. And let me tell you what comes natural. And I'm saying this as someone who has a lived experience. I am a Black woman, both identified and born as a Black woman. And the one thing that I do know is no matter how hard I work, there will be someone who is looking to identify how I didn't work hard enough. We hear it all the time. You have Black men who will not be a part of their household, but will criticize their baby mama. What are you doing, sir? You know, she's not doing it well enough. Well, what are you doing at all, right? This is a continuous theme, is that no matter how hard the Black woman works, she is often overlooked, and her efforts are often understated. And that leads me to Carlee Russell. Full stop on this. Carlee Russell is wrong. Today, she admitted through an attorney, and she apologized through an attorney for her lie. And I don't use soft words. It's a lie. It's not a mistruth. It's a lie. It's intentional. I don't know the reasoning because she didn't state it in that, and I don't even care. She lied. And the only reason I care about her lie is because Black women aren't believed anyway. Now, about a year ago, a white woman was reported missing by her husband. And when she was found, or when she returned, she told this flamboyant story of being kidnapped by these two Mexican people and all these things. And literally, they found out that this white woman was in Mexico with a former high school boyfriend. Since that time, every white woman that has gone missing has had some kind of regional, local, or national attention placed on them. And so Carlee Russell is not your opportunity to further dismiss us. And she's not the excuse. You were doing it already. You already didn't like us. And when I say us, I embody Black womanhood. You already didn't like us. You got to sit around holding your jock and talking shit about Black women. You were doing that already, bruh. And some of you, sis, waiting to be picked by the same men who murder and lynch and do all the things that you say white men used to do, and they do it now. Some of you women were sitting around doing the same thing. If she was really missing, you would have done it anyway. Again, Carlee Russell is wrong. She should not be your excuse. And I've heard this over and over again. See, that's why nobody's going to believe us. You still believe white women when they lie. Black women will report rape less than anyone else and sexual assault less than anyone else. When they do report it, well, we don't know. We got to see what's the other side. But you believe white women immediately. Meg the Stallion video of her bleeding. Oh no, it must have been somebody else. Must have been this, must have been that. Y'all still fighting for this man, not even an American man, he's a Canadian, to be out of jail after shooting someone. And if Meg the Stallion got treated that way, you can only imagine how a Stephanie Bryant would be treated. Carlee Russell was wrong. She is not a reflection of all Black women. We are the only race of people where one person's mistake has to reflect the greater person or the greater good. A Black man robs the store. See, you know, Black people are criminals. A white man robs the store. We don't talk about white criminality as a whole. So if you jumped on this bandwagon and started to use and repeat the narrative of, see, this is why, I want you to acknowledge that Black women aren't believed anyway. Carlee Russell is 1 in 15 million. So many Black women have gone missing in the time that you even knew Carlee Russell existed. So many Black women have been killed at the hands of their partner, even by officers. You're not talking about that. But the minute you get to dismiss a Black woman's pain, the minute you get to decide that you can't extend empathy or grace to a Black woman, I'll even say this. Black women do not get grace. We are always expected to be on the up and up. Everything must be perfect, and you believe us to be imperfect, but still hold us to a standard that is beyond everybody else's. I'll use Sha'Carri Richardson. a hurt and injured and damaged young girl who grew up in a toxic environment without people that loved and supported her, meaning the people who birthed her. She was being raised by her grandparents. She lost her mother. She made mistakes, and none of you wanted to give her grace. If that story was ascribed to a white girl, the grace you would give her, you would put her in political office at some point. You would use her story as a way to show how people rise above. But when Sha'Carri made a mistake that didn't impact any of you, she smoked marijuana. Most of you live in states now where smoking marijuana is not only legal, but white folk are making a lot of money off of it that you never will. And yet Sha'Carri was abused verbally. Y'all are the worst. Was dragged through the mud. Was talked about by some of the same men who've been smoking weed since before it was legal. This girl was trying. You gave her no grace. She was barely 21 years old. No frontal lobe. Frontal lobe. Still got a soft spot. You know how the baby got a soft spot? That's what Michelle calls it. Soft spot still open. Ignore my brothers acting crazy. So I've seen this. This record, you might change it, but it doesn't change. Black women have never been believed. Ms. Russell is not the first or the last. And don't use her as an excuse to dismiss us, because we have already been dismissed. You can do two things. I want you to learn how to walk and chew gum if you're listening. You can say she's wrong and also say this is not a reflection of the average experience of Black women. This is not a reflection of Black women, because again, you have history and historical anecdotes from Emmett Till and beyond of white women crying wolf in some way, and you have never disbelieved them. And I'm talking to you, Black men. You'll chase a bunny through the woods. You'll chase a bunny through the woods. You'll play in the snow all day long. But the minute you think a Black woman has made an error, you know why it's so exciting to you? Because you're fucked up most of the time. You find, I've experienced it. A Black man thinks I made a mistake and he's got to hold on to it because he can catalog his mistakes with me. He can catalog them. He knows what he's done. And he's been waiting for that one moment of where perhaps Steph B wasn't perfect. And he's living off of it and thriving off of it. And that's really what you all are doing with Ms. Russell. You need us to be imperfect. But you also need us to be your mule, to be your labor, to be your marchers, to wear our soles of our shoes out, to bring down monuments, to birth your babies, to nurse you on plantations when you could not find food, to fight for you, to go to court for you, to live in the basement, to sleep on our sofas rent-free, to sleep in our beds and give us nothing in return. But the minute you think a Black woman made a mistake, all Black women must carry the mantle for it. I have not wanted to discuss her with most people because your mind in regard to Black women is so debased that it's been irrelevant to me. You already thought we weren't enough while taking so much from us. She was wrong. It is not a reflection on any of us, like Glocktavius is not a reflection on the rest of you. Your sons are killing in our community. This week alone, we have had 3 Black men commit matricide. That means kill their mothers. One killed his sister and turned on his mother. You don't hear any Black woman sitting around saying Black men are this and looking, making a whole podcast about it. You have a Black woman who, in my opinion, to do what she did, must be dealing with some kind of mental defect. Especially if you Google and research what she did beforehand, because it was clearly going to be found out. something went wrong, it does not mean that all Black women are to be disbelieved. And if you do not believe us, do not call for our voices when there's a boot on your neck. And that's my rant.
Ain't no half step with Marcus J live from NewDen Legacy Internet Radio. I'll close us out with my rant and my closing. I'm going to lead with a quote from Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry says people choose to be around people that feed their need. If you need drama, negativity, gossip, or pettiness, I promise you, you will starve to death in my presence. It's a quote from Tyler Perry. It's a quote that I will use and I will feel and I will embody for the rest of my days. And when I hear what we talked about tonight, particularly with Carlee Russell, it's a topic that I had planned for us to spend more time on. And the fact that Steph used it as her rant and was so eloquent in her rhetoric and prose, I feel less bad about not bringing it up because my sister, you took it to where it needed to be. And I thank you for that. But I look at the way that we treated Carlee Russell and the way that we treated Jamie Foxx and the way that we treated others with the need to go so hard with regards to jest that we forget humanity. We forget the fact that while we were talking our shit about Carlee Russell, we ain't know. We knew the day, but before the day, we was talking our shit, laughing, memes, and pictures of the grown people on the babies' bodies and all that kind of stuff. Like, I'm not in that vein no more. Or ever really with me. It's just like, I don't know why we as Black people, and I'm speaking to Black people, other folks probably do it, not talking to them. Why we trade off bullshit all the time? Why we think everything is funny? Everything's not funny. It's not funny when Jamie Foxx is ill and his daughter don't want to tell you what's wrong with him. That ain't funny. It's not worthy of jokes and ridicule, but that's where we go. That's where we lead. That's our most dominant way to perform in our rhetoric. Why do we do that? I'm always going to be the one that says, nah, yo, that shit ain't funny. It makes me someone who perhaps is not favorable towards those who are making the funnies, and those folks are often the loudest ones, and the loudest ones happen to be the ones who get the most attention. But fuck that. I don't need that attention. I'm not going to make fun of people who are having the worst day of their life. How fucked up are you when you telling the world that you seen a baby on the side of the highway and you lying? I had a conversation with Pops J a couple days ago, and I was all in. And I'm still going to be all in support of Carlee Russell, knowing what I knew at the time I knew it. She missing? I'm looking for her. It didn't turn out the way we wanted it to turn out. She lied. Okay. But before we knew she lied, she was missing. She left her wig, y'all. That's some real shit. And I said it to my pops. Like, yo, ain't no sister gonna leave her wig. She ain't gonna leave her cell phone. Something real to that. It ended up being a hoax, and I can dig it. For those folks who want to hear me now and say, Marcus J, you got it wrong, I didn't get it wrong. I didn't get it wrong. I went off of the information that I had. It turned out to be a lie. How many people in this listening cipher believed in somebody who turned out to be a liar? We all been there. John's whispering over there, your pastor. Fair enough. But how many of us have succumbed to that? And I feel no shame in any way for being caught up in it. And Steph, so eloquently as she always does, wax poetic about how we don't treat our sisters right. And this is an example of it. Because before we knew the truth, we was already coming for her. And we didn't even know the truth. Oh, man, I knew all along she was full of shit. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And if you did, Hey, you got a crystal ball I have not been privileged to see. My whole rant here is all about giving grace to those of us who deserve it. Who deserve it. And stop making fun of stuff that doesn't require a joke. I will no longer celebrate those folks who practice petty. You see my shirt? Look at my shirt. My shirt says heavy on protecting my peace. Heavy on protecting my peace. If you disturb that, you got to go. I love you. You got to go. I love you. Got to go. Because you disturb my peace. Nobody gets that ever again. No matter how much I love you. You blood or you cuz. You disturb my peace? Nah. Best time to call me is text message. Don't call me, yo. Don't call me. You gonna call me out the blue. I ain't even know who's gonna ring. And all of a sudden my phone's ringing. Like, what the fuck is going on? My phone's ringing. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk. Text me. Heavy on protecting my peace. Because my anxiety says, right now, I don't want to talk. Text me. I'll call you back. Ain't no shade. Ain't no shade. People choose to be around people that feed their need. If you need drama, negativity, gossip, or pettiness, I promise you, you will starve in my presence. That is Marcus's unrelated rant. Ain't got nothing to do with what we ain't talking about tonight. That's the end of the show. Remind everybody, independence is the key to building your legacy. I also want to say peace to all of the stars and the squares. In the abundance of water, the fool is thirsty. Those are the words of Bob Marley, who you did hear singing in the background. Be blessed. Give grace. Always keep it 100. And remember, authenticity has no competition. We are celebrating nearly 12 years live podcasting and internet radio. Ain't no how to step with Marcus J. Live from NewDen, Legacy Internet Radio. We'll be back. The latest show. I could say next week if I want to. But maybe we don't feel like doing the show next week. That's grace that I will give to John. He will give to Steph. And she will give to me. And we will give to each other. We love y'all. And we appreciate the support that y'all give to us for the past almost 12 years. Ain't no how stepping with Marcus J. For John, for Steph, for yours truly. We'll be back soon. Holla at your family.
Oh, yeah. I'm with this, with it. I'm just gonna lay back and I'm gonna drop some smooth lyrics. So tune in 7 to 9:30 and don't be late. We about to set it straight. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Word. I'm ready. Let's go. Ain't no half stepping, that's the name of the show. Yeah. Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah. Hunters talk sprinkled with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you want to talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With the flow in this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the B, legacy online. 7 to 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk, running back. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Up in Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk. half stepping is the name of the show. Yeah, Marcus J hosting and we ready to go. Yeah, Hunters Talk sprinkled with a dash of humor to the legacy listeners and the online viewers. What you wanna talk about, call it, we're hearing you. Cover all topics, touch on the main issues. With you flowing this show, bring the heat. The word on the street, Wizard Earl on the beat. We superb in the D, legacy online. 7 and 9:30, please be on time. Ain't no half stepper with Marcus J, my brother. If they can't hang, word to their mother. And he been on this grind for a while. The brother so smart, plus brother got style. Weapon Richmond, we on the mission, before force. And listen up, this Marcus J start to talk.